6:56. 6.7 seconds left. Inbound near sideline. Will be brought in by Butler. Kaluma will be on him. Butler given the basketball. Here we go. Butler looking. They get it into the corner. 4 seconds left. Trammell backs up, now tries to drive with 2, with 1. Floater up, and they call the foul. And no time left on the clock. They call the foul. And San Diego State will go to the line to go to the Final Four. That's foul on Ryan Nembhard. Nick's going to try to see.
Oh, my gosh. I am speechless.
Nembhard went straight up.
That is
straight up.
Unbelievable.
Nembhard went straight up. And now they show it in the building, and the Creighton fans boo.
I mean,
I can't believe they called that.
Unbelievable. Was it for sure with time? Was there for sure time left?
That's what they're checking.
Why do you want to call that? Like, it's not a foul.
And Greg McDermott is screaming right now at Lee Cassell.
Omaha, Nebraska, this is 1620 The Zone. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Gary, Nick, and Jimmy. 1620 The Zone. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Throw those texts, bring in those comments, and become part of the show. 402-951-1620.
Wow, that's the first time I've heard the radio call. I thought in John Bishop form, John was pretty reserved.
Yeah.
I usually with officiating calls, John gets after him a little bit.
And that would have been the one.
He was rather reserved there. And you heard Nick's opinion. We've got opinions. We've got all of you on a Monday morning after the Creighton basketball season comes to an end last night. 57-56 in Kentucky. Good morning, everybody. The show may go a couple of different ways today because there's still people the morning after have a lot of emotions on what happened in that game. And I don't want to focus on 1.2 seconds because the thing about the NCAA tournament is we're seeing it this year. It's either you live in Storrs, Connecticut, or you have proximity to beaches and you're going to make the Final Four. It's one of the more unique Final Fours. You have to go back to like 2011.
Yeah.
But the one thing this tournament has shown us where there's no number one seeds is it is what makes this the greatest 3-week sporting event going because there is the randomness. There is the just unexpected that's going to happen when you have a single elimination tournament. And the thing for Creighton yesterday, and you guys will get very much a sense of where I'm going in this whole discussion today. And feel free to disagree with me, kickstart the conversation. But when you get to this point, and it's extremely hard, I don't care if you're Creighton and you're built for March, it's extremely hard to navigate the waters, okay? To get to the Elite Eight, to get on the cusp of playing to the Final Four, to get to the Final Four, to get to the Final Two, to win a national championship. Winning is extremely hard. It is razor thin. Look at Miami was down 8 with 5 minutes to go to Drake. A jump ball changed FAU's game against Memphis. Both of those teams are playing in the Final Four. So the margin is razor thin. But when you get to this point and you are a team like Creighton and you have the opportunity that they had yesterday, and especially the way they played early on, when they looked like Creighton and the San Diego State, let me drag you into the mud, was not there until about 3 minutes to go in the first half. It's even more disappointing during the course of a 40-minute game when in your biggest game to date of the season, you're not able to bring your A game, not even your B plus or your B game. And that's the thing that I think is going to be the most disappointing thing when you get past the emotion of 1.2 seconds or even that last minute is Creighton had an opportunity and failed to play one of their better games of the year or sustain it after about the first 15 minutes yesterday. That's my takeaway. I know we're going to discuss the last minute, but that's when you get to that point and you're not able to grasp and play well enough. And they certainly didn't. If you look at the second half, and they had opportunities. There were so many opportunities before you even got into the danger zone for Creighton to grab hold of that game and hold off San Diego State, and they weren't able to. And a lot of it was on their own accord. Look at what they were in layups. Shots at the rim, 6 of 15.
Yeah.
Those things come back to bite you. And if I'm a competitor, that's what's going to stick with me is the 40 minutes of basketball and our lost opportunity.
Yeah, the first 15 minutes of this game, you're thinking, wow, Creighton
They're going to the Final Four.
They've got it figured out. You know, that what they have right now is an acceptance of, hey, we're not going to get a good look at a three. But what do we have? We have the biggest advantage in the tournament remaining right now. With the teams that are playing right now, we've got Ryan Kalkbrenner. They can't defend them. We're going inside. We're going to make that. They're going to have to adjust to that. And what they were doing, you're getting the ball in there. You're getting the looks. You're settling for higher percentage jumpers. You're not relying on the three because San Diego State was not going to allow you to do so. And at one point, and you're watching that game, and the commentators are talking about at some point, is San Diego State going to start dropping a guy down low? Are they going to try to at least interrupt that pass or that entry pass? Are they going to do something to change it up? You're talking about San Diego State at some point going to have to change what they're doing defensively. That San Diego State defense that held Alabama and Creighton to a combined 5 of 44 beyond the arc.
Yeah, 17%.
Yeah.
4 games in the tournament.
Is going to have to adjust what they're doing defensively. That is music to your ears if you're a Creighton fan, if you're watching that game, because they seem to accept what maybe most teams that do rely a little bit on the three would feel uncomfortable. Creighton seemed more than comfortable going about it that way. But then you mentioned the last 5 minutes of the first half. All of a sudden, Kalkbrenner's a little bit more absent. Ball inside is a little bit more absent. San Diego State starts to kind of have their impact defensively. And then when you look at where Creighton's offense was trending in the first half, you're thinking there's no way they're going to kind of succumb to those typical San Diego State games and what they've been able to do defensively. They're going to kind of have that answer. All of a sudden, before you know it, San Diego State has defensively have made that impact. But and I'm glad you bring up the percentage inside too, as far as good looks, layups, bunnies, whatever we want to call them. Because despite all of that, you had, and not that San Diego State was much better in that department, by the way, but you had opportunities for this game to be in the 60s, hell, even in the 70s, if you're making those high percentage shots inside that you typically do make with a guy like Ryan Kalkbrenner and some of those short range jumpers. And so you watch all of that kind of go down. Despite San Diego State maybe having a little bit more impact and they're spreading their minutes all out. I think it was I think it's Trammell who is the only player for San Diego State who played more than 31 minutes. Everybody else is they're spreading their minutes out. They've got fresh legs because they know it's going to take that type of defense to kind of grind that game way down. But you still had opportunities offensively that you just could not take advantage of. I mean, there was the timeout, get Shireman a look, air ball. You know, I mean, so there's a lot of different things about this game that we can all focus on that last minute and that last play, but the way Creighton seemed to have things kind of figured out, and it wasn't that all of a sudden San Diego State just completely changed their defense. Even Max said at halftime that, yeah, they got away from what they were doing well. They were moving the ball extremely well. They were making San Diego State's defense work, and then they were finishing inside. They got away from that. It wasn't because San Diego State dictated that necessarily. So I know it's always the same conversation when you do have a little bit of a controversial call or what have you, however you want to describe it.
By the way, I'm going to stop right there. What's controversial about it?
Well,
it was a foul.
It was a foul.
Okay.
Is it a foul in the way that game was being
I'm
called?
not using that word,
but and that's the question. But
sorry, I thought we were talking about the Super Bowl.
I know, right? You have a game that ends like that, but then you can look back. Every team can do this that has ever felt like they got cheated. Can always look back and say, yeah, but we could have done this better at this moment of the game. And that's as much as that's cliche, or you might say, well, that's the lazy response or explanation. It's the truth. Yeah. And we just gave you a lot of different scenarios where Creighton had a chance to distance themselves in this game.
57% they were shooting from the floor in the first 15 minutes. Their offensive execution was unbelievable. They hadn't let San Diego State settle in defensively and draw you into the game, which San Diego State eventually did. That they play that game. That was not a classic game to me yesterday. That was a brutal display of basketball.
Yeah.
I can't watch San Diego State play. That is not appealing basketball to me. Yeah, they play defense and they play hard and they bump and they grind you and they hope to get you into a game that with the whistle is more conducive to them. But they can't hit shots. They couldn't finish at the rim. I don't like that basketball. I completely hate that basketball. The game was not aesthetically pleasing to me. But here's what happened. So the first 15 minutes, Creighton looks like Creighton. They're shooting 57%. And then the game changed a little bit. From there on out, by the way, Creighton shot 29%. I thought in the last 3 to 4 minutes of the first half and the first 4 minutes of the second half is that where that game changed. Because all of a sudden, San Diego State went from not getting any offensive rebounds to there's one, there's two, there's three, and Creighton can't pull away. Now, kudos to San Diego State. They never let Creighton go on one of those big patented Creighton runs. So you go into halftime and you're like, you know what? Would have liked to finish the last four better, but we're in a good spot. And then I'll tell you where that game changed, and it gave San Diego State life, and that game became a San Diego State dictated basketball game, is the first 4 minutes of the second half, because Creighton was unable to match San Diego State's intensity. And San Diego State came out, and again, it wasn't pretty, but what did they do? They were able to come back. They were able to grab the lead. And then there were points about 4 minutes later where Creighton had a chance to bounce it to double figures, and they never were able to. And that's why I keep going back to there's a lot of focus on 1.2, but damn, the whole game, you couldn't close out a team that scored 7 points in the last 4 minutes, and that's being San Diego State. And that's what would sit with me is we had an opportunity and weren't able to finish long before you ever got to the last minute. Now, to 1.2 seconds. I don't know if you guys noticed that. It was debated heavily on Twitter between Nebraska and Creighton fans.
Oh, I saw that
yesterday.
Uh-huh.
I am consistent with this, and I love consistency, and I said this the morning after the Super Bowl. If it's a penalty, if it's a foul, you call it. But if it's a penalty and a foul, you better be calling it the entire game, because players get into the mindset of how this game is going to be called, okay, how they play, what they do. So remember, neither team was in the bonus in the second half. It's a foul. And I have a problem with Nembhard on this. Why did you feel the need to grab Trammell? I know you got beat turning the corner, but that shot was going to come up short.
Way short.
You did not need to touch him. And here's the other thing. If that is not a single isolation play in the lane where there's no other bodies around, if it is in traffic, that call doesn't get made. You know why? Because you don't see it. But when it's an ISO play and you have an official that has the right angle and he sees the hand come in on the hip and grasp the jersey, they're going to call that all the time. And it's a foul. It was called. I think it was unnecessary to put a hand on him because that shot was going to come up short. That shot was not going to drop. And I don't understand why in that moment you had to touch him, because that wasn't going to fall, boys and girls, in my opinion. But the angle and the ISO that there were no other bodies around, because that was happening all game. But a lot of that time, that the clutching and grabbing and hand checking that was going on the shooter was when there was traffic around. Okay, so the official doesn't have a great look at it. And so they're not just going to assume, even though we've gotten into these, anticipatory whistles. And in my opinion, that's why it was called. It was a foul. Did I see Trammell get pushed off his mark? I just don't know why you had to do that in that moment.
And I got two things on this, and it is
because you can't give an official a reason to make a call.
Agreed.
Whether it be 1.2 seconds or 12 minutes to go in the game.
Agreed. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to take this, and I was telling Jimmy this when I got here today, with the official first and foremost, is First of all, 100% agree. And this has always been my thing, and more so in baseball when we're talking about strike zones. If there are certain pitches that are in the strike zone that you're not going to call, lower half, corners, what have you, if it's a strike on most occasions, but you got an umpire that's not calling it, just be consistent there, because then pitchers and hitters alike will adjust.
Mm-hmm.
You know exactly how you're going to kind of adjust it. Same way if a game is being called, if you're letting some hand checking and what have you between a DB and a wide receiver go, then if that's consistent, guys know what they can and cannot get away with. All that is fair. Same thing with the basketball game. Okay, if there are certain things that you are not going to allow or certain things you are, like we saw games, I'll use the Kansas-Arkansas game, for example. That thing was, everything was a whistle. But then all of a sudden you would have a stretch where it wasn't. It was a very uneven sort of up and down. You were at that game. It was just a very oddly officiated game. Like at times it would get very intense and they'd let things go. And then other times there were a lot of whistles. So yesterday you're watching that game and the amount of fouls would lead you to believe that, hey, they're letting them play. And I would say to that extent, they pretty much were. But I always think when you are in a situation that the official was yesterday, and if your eye immediately gravitates to what most of us weren't watching initially, and that was as the shot goes up, where's his hand? Because as you heard in the open there, Nick was thinking about where the contact was. Everybody was immediately saying, wait, did he get his arm on the release? He was going straight up. Where was the contact? It wasn't until, at least when I was watching it on TV, until they said, okay, let's look at the left hand. Oh, yep. And then they zoomed in. Yep, there's a hold there. You can see him grab the jersey right there. If the official immediately sees that, how much of that is just instinct? And you're not even thinking about how the game is being called. It's just instinct. To you, that's a foul. You're not thinking about, well, we've let this go all game. It's just one of those, in the moment, I've called that thing dozens of times this tournament. I'm calling it. And if you go back on it, maybe an hour later, maybe I didn't, given the way the game was called, maybe I didn't need to, but to me, that was a foul. I blew the whistle. I can't go back. I can't take it back. And then I want to go to Nembhard defensively. Think about when you're getting beat off the ball and the angle that he was at. And again, this is where that left hand comes in. When you get beat off the ball and a guy is going up, I think sometimes it is just natural instinct to try to get your hand over there to sort of recover, because your feet, and think about 30, what do you play, 34 minutes or so? Your feet are probably, and your legs are a little bit more slow in recovering. So you're trying to cheat. I mean, it happens all the time. We try to cheat with our arms when we're defending, when our legs are not quite there where they were in the first. So instead of his legs being able to help him recover, you're trying to, that arm's coming over to try to allow you to get back in front so you can have a fully vertically contested shot. So that's where I think that probably, I'm with you. I can look at that and say, so unnecessary, because that shot was going to be short. But then I think of Nembhard getting beat, immediately trying to recover so he could still contest that shot.
Problem.
Exactly. And that's why the official made the call. He saw him get beat, and then he tried to regain leverage by grabbing. And so I think it was an easy call for the official. And if that's exactly what he's focused in on, and then from Nembhard's defense, that's how he was trying to recover, even though it was a foul.
Again, why give them a reason to make a call?
Right.
There's just there's a lot in yesterday. Again,
it'll haunt them for years.
Well, it will, because it's an opportunity, and you didn't play your best for 40 minutes, and you let San Diego State drag you down into the mud. San Diego State, offensively, they weren't hitting shots, and then it was almost like it was contagious at the other end. But the amount of buckets within the shadow of the rim that did not drop for Creighton yesterday.
What do you say, 6 for 15?
6 for 15 on layups.
Right away, I think of that Kalkbrenner miss right there at the rim going into that timeout.
Well, not once, but twice.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one that I cannot figure out how it did not go down. And I've gone back and I've watched the last minute of yesterday's game, I bet at least double-figure times. How does the Trey Alexander floater in the lane not drop?
That thing did everything but go in.
How did that not fall?
I was just waiting for it to just kind of sit there on the rim and then go left into the cylinder, not right off the cylinder. Like, I mean, yeah, and it was soft. And I'm I'm glad you brought him up too, because he had a couple shots that I still watch. And even in what was a really kind of cold second half offensively, some of the shots that he hits where he's able to control his body in midair. And there's just, you see that extra, that ability to do so. And that was a shot. Yeah. It looked like, okay, that's going down. That's a big shot right there. And it just didn't. It wasn't a shot that I would say, oh, Trey, you've got to make that 100% of the time. It was a contested shot, but it was a shot that he'd been making too. And it was a good look. I mean, it just did everything but go in. It wasn't like he was anticipating contact and sort of forced it or anything of that we saw sometimes inside. It was a really good look. It just, unfortunately for Trey, didn't go in.
The teams combined to shoot 39% from the floor yesterday.
Surprised it was that good.
They were 5 of 30 combined from beyond the arc, and they combined for 113 points. That is not a classic to me.
Nope.
That is some ugly basketball. And the last minute of that game was extremely ugly. Decision-making on both sides. The overpass that Shireman picks off and lays it up to tie the game.
How's that happen?
Hello.
After you're completely denied, so you have to beat a 5-second clock by calling a timeout. And then that's what you end up doing out of the timeout.
Well, and there's a lot of decisions in the last minute of a game, because we'll get to them in the next segment. I did not like the foul to give, and I did not like the timeout, and I did not like the 94-foot heave. But this is a tough pill to swallow, because the opportunity, the door was open, and the game ended with the phrase, "They've determined it's over,"
which was fitting at that point.
That's tough to wrap your arms around. But and the randomness of the tournament, and then a single elimination, and everything is so razor thin, and you can walk away and go, man, we played our best game. I don't think Creighton can say that at all.
No.
I don't think Creighton got back late last night, and the whole flight home, they're going, man, you know what? Hat tip to San Diego State.
We let it all hang.
Yeah, we played our best game. We played what Creighton basketball has been about, and they were just better. I don't think you can say that, and that's the thing that's going to stick with me. And maybe that's the thing that drives you into next season, which we will, of course, talk about today. But you got to remember, every season to me is different in the mindset and the roster and all of that stuff. It's just,
and the luck.
That's the disappointing thing, is you on the biggest day in the history of your program weren't able to continue that A game that you played for the first 15 minutes. And I don't know. I don't think you could say, hey, San Diego State was the better team.
No.
They were the more opportunistic team at the moment they needed to be. And that's the gut punch.
Well, and to further the gut punch, I think there was a style that Creighton was playing that they were able to successfully come out against that San Diego State defense and give you a style that's going to get them to win through the winner's circle. I mean, I think you look at the first 10 plus minutes of that game, that's a style that's going to get you there. That's a style both defensively, and let's talk for a moment, Creighton defensively there in the first half. I mean, really, the entire game, because San Diego State's not hitting a lot of shots either. That's just not a great offensive team. But defensively, man, they were working their tails off. And I would say that you see that part of the game, you're thinking, that's how you're going to win this one. So you saw it. It wasn't like, well, we knew what we had to do. We just never got into a consistent pattern of that. They did. Got away from it. And then the other thing, we can talk, and I saw a lot of this yesterday, and I think yesterday was an appropriate time to mention, hey, this team could be good enough to be right back in that situation again next year. You mentioned the randomness. There's the other part of the gut punch. You could be even better next year. There is no guarantee that you're going to be in an Elite Eight game because of this tournament, because of how the unpredictable rears its ugly head almost every day and every night of the tournament. So there's a case to be made about a lot of teams that have been to the NCAA tournament that have had better teams than the ones that they took the farthest they've ever gone and didn't even make it out of the first weekend because of the randomness of this.
Here's the thing, that there are a lot of things that will haunt you if you're a Creighton fan, but you think of it this way. You were at a chance to get to the Final Four where you would have played a 9 seed.
Yeah.
And no disrespect to them. I mean, they deserve to be there. They played amazing over the weekend. You're going to play a 9 seed on Saturday. And then you're going to play either a 5 seed or a team that you know because they're in your league and
Right.
you've played them already. So you're thinking, I was actually thinking this, wow, shows we're going to have this week, what we're looking at. And then it hit me. They damn well could be playing Monday night for the championship game just because how it all lines up. And you could be better next year, but yeah, you get the wrong matchup. Or you end up in a Final Four where 3 other powerful 1 seeds, your classic Final Four. So, you're thinking, yeah, you could be better, but there's no guarantee that you're going to get back to this point
Right.
where yesterday, if you play at least 4 minutes of your best basketball to close it out, you could win that game and keep playing. That's the hard part. Never mind any foul calls or anything like that. It's just what you said.
All right. The Creighton basketball season is over, so basketball is done around here. And now we have quite a unique Final Four. Kind of mixed feelings on the Final Four of UConn and 3 first-timers.
You said 11. 11 was also in Houston where you had VCU and
George Mason.
Butler. And,
Yeah, George Mason got in as 11, not in that tournament.
Jim Larnaga.
Yeah, Jim Larnaga, HOFer. All right, lots to discuss. With you. I know the thoughts are fresh on how that game has unfolded. The reaction is probably a little bit different when you've had a chance to sleep on it and digest the whole game. We'll take your calls, of course, at 951-1620. What does this mean moving forward for Creighton? There's just some decisions to be made. This program isn't going anywhere. They're going to be built. Sure. They're going to be built for March. But how many times do you get these opportunities? Right. We always say that in sports. The fleeting opportunity, the one that gets away, because there's nothing given in sports. That's what makes it so great. You could be the best team. You're sitting at home if you're in college basketball right now. You can always email us into the Equitable Bank inbox, Gary or Handley at 1620thezone.com, or on the JTech Construction Zone Twitter feed at Gary Sharp 1620 at Nick 1620 as well. Coming up a little bit later, Brian Munson will join us. So Nebraska football was still doing their thing in Lincoln with a monster recruiting weekend that included Dylan Raiola and that whole experience amongst his friends. Brian Munson will join us coming up at 8:30. Jacob Bigelow stops by at 9. I'm sure he'll have some thoughts on the first 2 weekends of the tournament, what the Final Four will mean. And then we hope to hook up with Joel Lorenzi, who, of course, was just churning out content, video content, online content, in the newspaper content down in Louisville. And so he'll join us coming up at 9:40 with, I'm sure it'll be a very good in-depth discussion, kind of like CBS had at the end of the game yesterday. That was really good. That you had former players on the panel. Gene Steratore stopped by. And then you had the coach perspective of Jay Wright. I thought that was really, really good. By the way, Jay Wright, I know that he'd probably like to be at games, sitting courtside with a headset on. He's done wearing his suit on the sidelines as a coach. But God, he is so good in studio.
Yeah.
He is really, really good in studio.
Natural fit.
That was such a smart hire by CBS. I mean, he has done that in the past, but now that it's his full-time gig, gosh, he's
having fun too.
Well, and his perspective is really good. I mean, he balances both sides. Like, he understood where Barkley was coming from, where Kenny Smith was coming from, Clark Kellogg, and then he gave what a coach would look at. And it's, hey, okay, that's a foul, but man, was it a foul early in the game? That's all I want is consistency with officiating. And in college basketball, we suffer from that. If you call that in the first minute, I'm fine with that. If our guys on the floor know that stuff like that's going to be called the entire game, we adjust. Or a call like that late, we know what were we doing. But don't give an official in that situation a reason to make a call. And when you're in ISO play and there's not a lot of traffic around, that official's got a clear view of that. And once you go with the hand and the grasp of the jersey, you know they're going to call a foul. I don't think you needed to.
Don't get beat.
Just don't think you needed to. All right, 38 past the hour. Off and running on a Monday morning, this 27th of March, which baseball starts on Thursday. How about that? We had snow yesterday.
Where'd that come from?
I was pissed when I woke up.
Well, thank God we don't live in Columbus or Fremont or Blair. They got over 7 inches of snow. But Major League Baseball opens up on Thursday. We're off and running. Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
Gary Sharp, Nick Handley, and Jimmy Chavez. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Weekdays 6 to 10. On 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com. Remember, no matter how you listen, it's still AM radio. 1620 The Zone.
College basketball is in full swing and gearing up for the college basketball tournament. Watch it all season long at Oscar's Pizza and Sports Grill. Of course, Oscar's serves great pizza, but don't forget about their award-winning charred buff wings or even their delicious fish and chips. Perfect for Friday nights. Dine in or carry out at 173rd and West Center. Carry out at 162nd and Maple, and order online at oscarsomaha.com.
This is the official station of the NCAA Men's Basketball Tournament in Omaha. Follow all the action from first tip-off to the final buzzer right here. Westwood One's coverage of March Madness is locally presented by Woodhouse Auto Family and is also brought to you locally by Union Bank and Trust in Omaha, Lanahan Nursery, and Doctors Bimbo and Vince Petro on Omaha's home for America's favorite tournament, 1620 The Zone.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same, but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online? Just go to 4hims.com/radio. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and trusted generic alternatives to the name brands at up to 95% off. That's right. Get generic for Viagra, the same active ingredient as brand name Viagra, but for 95% less. It's the same medication, still prescribed by a licensed medical provider, but with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, 4hims.com/radio. That's 4hims.com/radio for your free online visit. FORHIMS.com/RADIO.
Businesses of Omaha, settling for a website that looks like it's stuck in the early 2000s? Then it's time to level up with JM Online. Our local team builds custom websites that solve unique business needs. We're not your typical web design company. We're your partners in online success. Ready to take your website to the next level? Go to jmonline.com and request an initial call.
At Big Brothers Big Sisters of the Midlands, one youth, one mentor, plus one moment could unlock limitless potential. When you sign up to become a mentor, you are matched one-to-one with a child in the greater Omaha community, a child with big potential. There are over 130 youth waiting for a big like you. Sign up today at mentoromaha.org. Once again, that's mentoromaha.org.
Your neighborhood is more than blocks of buildings. It's the people who live there that make it special. At Union Bank and Trust, we're not just creating home loans, we're making neighbors. We're not just small business lenders, we're small business shoppers. We don't just live in your community, we help you build it. Because our people are your people. Visit ubt.com/neighbor to learn more. Union Bank and Trust, member FDIC.
Many people go back to the dealership out of habit or because they think the dealer is the only one who knows how to fix their car. At Omaha Car Care, we offer a better option. We have ASE certified technicians, the technology to service any vehicle, and free loaner cars. The dealer will sell you a package of services. We'll provide the service you want for your car as your trusted partner. I'm Rick Betker, owner of Omaha Car Care, and we'll be along for the ride.
Cards issued by Celtic Bank, member FDIC.
Are you the decision maker in your company? Consider this. For the first time in decades, there's a better option for a corporate card and spend management platform. Meet Ramp, the only corporate card and spend management system designed to help you spend less money so you can make more. Most corporate credit cards offer points as incentives, but those points amount to less than their worth in real cash value. Ramp's business cards offer you cash back, real money in your pocket. Plus, you control who spends what with each vendor. And Ramp's software collects and verifies receipts automatically, which means you'll stop wasteful spending and close your books in hours instead of days. Businesses that use Ramp add up to 3.5% to their bottom line the first year. If you're a decision maker, adding Ramp could be one of the best decisions you've ever made. And now get $250 when you join Ramp for free. Just go to ramp.com/sports. Ramp.com/sports. RAMP.com/sports.
And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
Hey, it's National Joe Day. So happy National Day to Asian Joe, Wrestling Joe that calls up periodically, G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
Joe Biden, Joe Pesci,
Joe
Piscopo.
Joe Biden to Joe Pesci.
Fat Joe, Joe DiMaggio.
Joe.
Good
I
day
thought
to
maybe
have
it's for
sloppy Joes for
I
lunch.
thought maybe it's for like a cup of Joe or something like that.
Joe Montana.
Or Joe Montana.
Yeah. Joe Walsh. Joe Cocker.
There's a lot of Joes out there.
There's a lot of Joes. But
It's your day.
But it's not Joey Day. So if your first name is Joey, you're not a Joe.
No.
You've decided to go as Joey.
Which is
So
fine.
This day isn't for you. I'm sure
You
there's some
wanted to
other
be
day.
the more fun, edgy, life of the party type person. Well, guess what? Today's not your day.
Went to school with a kid named Joey Myers. By the way, he was already bald like by 6th grade. It was amazing. But when he got older, he changed it to Joe. And I'm like, no, you're always Joey.
Yeah.
You can't make the transition from Joey to Joe. You have to decide early. You declare early that I'm a Joey or a Joe.
Well, that was the whole thing. Like when Mitch Trubisky came out of the college ranks, and then he wanted to be Mitchell.
Like, no, you're Mitch.
Come on. We're not adding a professional
I had
element
a
to your
professor
name.
that wanted me to be Jim. I was like, no, that's my dad.
Yeah.
Joe Theismann, who wanted to be Joe Theismann. So happy National Joe Day.
It's your day. Live it up.
I think you get free coffee because you get a cup of
You should
Joe.
get a cup of Joe.
Yes. All right.
It's
Welcome
just too perfect.
back in. A couple of emails here into the Equitable Bank inbox. We've not heard from old man Doug yet.
He was ready to go to Houston. I know that.
He wasn't the only one. we were going to hop in a car tomorrow, and 3 of us were going to drive to Houston.
Which I was excited once you said that to hear about those stories.
I wanted to meet Mattress Mac. We were going to talk about
the Final Four.
So much money on TCU Houston, and you're doing it again with the Astros?
Yeah.
John writes into the show, I'm a Jay season ticket holder and can't wait to hear the bitching about the officiating yesterday. And he's not implying our show, but
just in general.
Yeah. Teams combined went 5 of 40 from three-point range, countless missed point-blank shots. Whoa, John and I are thinking of the same thing here. 17 combined turnovers, not to mention the horrific giveaway by San Diego State with seconds to play. Yes, I'm devastated. It hurts mainly because this road to the Final Four could have worked perfectly, but it didn't, which makes it sting even more. I think a pretty solid argument made that the refs had a much better day yesterday than the Jays and the Aztecs. Love the show. That is from John.
Oh, thanks, John.
So here's again, there's a lot to unpack of 40 minutes of basketball. There are things in that last minute on both sides that I thought, what is McDermott and Dutcher doing with whether a timeout before the free throws by Trammell, whether when you fouled, the half-court heave. We'll digest all of that stuff. Kudos to Mac for this thing. So we know how heated he was.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't tell you how much of an impact it made for him yesterday to handle it like he did, not to go all in on officiating. And he gets it. And I think he's vibing with me when he gets it from the standpoint that there were so many opportunities in that game yesterday for Creighton to put the game away that they would have never gotten to the last minute. And that's what disappoints him because he knows that his team didn't play their best. And so I'm not going to, with this team that I absolutely love and are always going to be part of Creighton lore and a dream season that came up 2 games short of winning a national championship, I'm not going to attach the narrative to this team that we got screwed with 1.2 seconds. I'm not going to do that to this team. That's pure class. And his response and the players' response in the locker room, because remember, the locker room is open.
Yep.
So it could be pretty raw. And, I mean, the media that cover Nebraska and Creighton aren't, the hard-hitting, we're going to ask the tough questions, and what do you mean it didn't? but you're raw in the moment, and guys handled it really, really well. But I give credit to Mac. First of all, that's who he is, and he knows that it's 40 minutes of basketball, not 1.2 seconds, even though that would be the easy route to go, and then it would just blow up the country with discussion today. But he immediately got on top of the narrative and said, we're not, I'm paraphrasing a little bit here, we're not going there because he didn't want that attached to this team, because that would have been attached to this team. Oh, that's a team that got screwed. He wants it to be you know what, we were a really good team. I love this basketball team, and we're going to leave it as that. I thought he made an important first move in the press conference addressing that. And then his team has the same mindset. Yeah. We're not going to blame it on 1.2 seconds. Again, I keep going back to, they're going to look in the mirror and go, gosh, we had that. We didn't play so well. I also give credit to Mac for doing this, because I've seen all the morning shows today, and kudos, the local media that made the trip down there he did an interview with everybody, like it did a one-on-one. I mean, you're in that moment where that hurts. You've never been to that moment. And for him to do with all the local media one-on-one, I also think is pretty class. That is first class all the way by Mac. So from the media standpoint, thank you. I think from the Creighton fan standpoint, thank you that Mac grabbed the message and said, we're not making it about 1.2 seconds, because I don't want this team to always be attached to that. I want this team to know that we loved them and they gave everything. And, in your head, you're going, man, we had a window. We had a window on Sunday in Louisville and couldn't walk through it.
You set the tone with that message, and I think and it still obviously stings, and I'm sure every player, every coach is still looking at that last minute. For more importantly, not what happened or what didn't happen, but that you had a shot, especially with what San Diego State gave you with that inbound play. That was a huge gift there too. But it's funny, we talked to him on Friday, Darren Erstad. There was a moment after, I want to say we were playing Rutgers when I was doing baseball there, and there was a no call on what would have rung up a guy, would have ended the game. And it was, I mean, you're aware of the vantage point at Baton Field in New Jersey. You're right behind the backstop. You're another umpire, so you could tell, what's what. And so before we started doing our post game, I could tell he's kind of fired up. I'm like, my God, how do you not call that? And I'll never forget this. And it kind of reminds me of how Mac sort of set the tone yesterday. He goes, yeah, but if I blame that, then that means all the other opportunities that we had in the game don't matter. All those other opportunities, all those other things that happened were irrelevant to just that one moment. And he goes, and that's clearly not it. He goes, we should have won this game, and it wasn't because of that. So I can appreciate a coach that can have that perspective in that moment to be able to kind of pull it back a little bit and understand that, because you have a dugout or a locker room full of guys that are probably still having a tough time coming to grips with that. But when you put that out there publicly, I think they kind of take their cues from that. And then the other thing too, I don't think Mac wants, as you said, to be linked to that, but I thought his interaction with the media, I think at some point you want to be able to talk passionately about this season, because now you realize the season is over with. I saw a lot of reflection from people, highly involved with this program, whether it was Mac, heck, whether it was John Bishop, of the overall appreciation of this ride that ended in heartache, but how far they went, historical run, how fun it was, even though maybe at the time it didn't really resonate, that you can have just that moment of perspective to be able to appreciate that. And I think that's also a big reason why Mac wanted to talk to everybody about that, because it didn't end in Houston, but this season was definitely one worth celebrating.
And they're going to continue to be built for March. There's no guarantees, because next year is a completely different year in the game of basketball and on your own roster. But they're built for moving forward to play in March. It's just the razor thin margin. I keep going back. You have two teams in the Final Four. FAU is a jump ball call against Memphis in the opening round from not playing anymore.
Yeah.
Miami's down 8 with 5 minutes to go against Drake. Heck, Miami was down 13 last night
yesterday,
with 13 minutes to go against Texas.
And I thought Texas would just easily coast after that. Oh, they'll win by 10 or 12. This game's actually kind of boring, and then starts getting close. You're like, wait, this might actually be good.
Yeah, I lost 40.
It was all right there for you.
All right, here is Todd in Florida. Todd, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning from the lovely Fort Myers area, Gary.
Yeah.
Hey, I was telling Jimmy, so I started listening to the show probably 7 months ago, the more I thought about it. It was shortly before Damon left. So I have never really followed Husker basketball because they've never been that great necessarily. And so this season, I started following Creighton basketball for the first time, just from listening to you guys talking about how the season kind of looked, what this team might be able to do. So it was an interesting ride going through the ups and downs of the season. And I think what you guys are talking about this morning and how I felt yesterday during the game is I have a very small sample size of Creighton. And listening to you guys look at the good games, look at the bad games over the course of the season, the 6-game win streak and the 6-game lose streak and what Creighton basketball really is. And so going through the tournament was very exciting. I'm probably, we'll follow Creighton moving forward for sure. But I agree that they just didn't play their best game, and they had so many opportunities along the way to really not be in that last minute situation. But it was a fun ride. It was a fun ride to kind of become a Creighton fan, if you will, this year. So I wanted to thank you guys for all you do, and I enjoy listening to you every morning.
Hey, thank you, Todd, down in the 239.
I'm glad you didn't ask what the temperature was right there.
Nice.
I could do the old home survey at my house, and I know it's warm there. Last week of spring training. There for 15 minutes yesterday, you avoided San Diego State dragging you down.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, San Diego State, max half-court offense looked stuck. And San Diego State made you play the way they like to play, and they made it physical, and they got a reputation about being physical. So they're not gonna be whistled for a lot of fouls. Now, Creighton has a reputation. They don't foul.
Yep.
So it's kind of interesting that there's a foul with 1.2 seconds to go. But even outside of that, even outside of you got over the first 4 minutes of the second half where San Diego State came out of the locker room with intensity, and they really bothered Creighton. And they got the lead. It might have been, 35, 34, something in that range.
It was right away. Yep.
And you responded, but just were never able to get that bucket or two or a stop, because San Diego State is woeful offensively. They are just,
that's being kind.
They're shooting. Stuff wasn't even close.
No.
Not even close. That's why the Trammell shot was not falling. Why? The Trammell shot was not going to fall.
You could tell right away, too, when it left his hands.
Just
short. Don't give up a rebound.
Don't give an official a reason to make a call in that situation. And I don't think he was even going to bail Trammell out if there was not a clear look that, man, he just grabbed him.
Yeah, don't give him a reason. You're right.
Because if you go back and you slow it down, and I think this would be better if you were in the arena. The initial grab, I don't think knocks him off, dislodges the shooter. Where he falls is they get tangled up with their legs a little bit after the shot is released. But that shot was going to be short no matter what. Mm-hmm. You got to look again, and I might be in the minority here, but I think I've done this long enough, and I know how competitors look at it. They look at 40 minutes. They don't narrow it to 1.2. They look at 40 minutes and what you could have done to make sure that you control what you need to control and you don't put it in the hands of somebody else. Now, I wonder this, and I'll pose the question to you, Nick, and then we got to take a break. So the overthrow on the sideline out of bounds play right in front of the Creighton bench that makes it 56-56 that Shireman intercepts and lays it up. Do you think that Creighton got burned by the way San Diego State approached that inbounds with the timeout and then the errant pass, and that affected when they fouled San Diego State on the other end with the foul to give?
Yeah, and I think
hold that thought.
Okay.
Because I think we're on the same page, and I wonder if other people are, because I didn't like the foul to give, and you gave it away at that time because it shut off the shot clock. But I'm thinking that play earlier in that minute dictated how Creighton was going to approach it. Did not like that. All right, off on a Monday. Coming up a little bit later, Brian Munson. Did Dylan Raiola commit this weekend?
I didn't see red smoke in Lincoln that night, so I don't know.
I don't know. Kind of interesting. He has set his first official visit. It's not until June to Athens, Georgia. That's not the most ideal timing if you're Nebraska. Muntz will join us coming up at 8:30. Jacob Bigelow, Joel Lorenzi as well. The Final Four is set in Houston. A lot of tickets are going to be available. You have 4 teams that don't have giant fan bases. Tickets will be available at NRG Stadium. That's what you miss out with Creighton not making it. Creighton would have gone there in droves.
Yeah.
There would have been 20,000 Creighton fans that would have been in Houston.
Yep.
Now you've got 4 fan bases, again, that don't have large followings. It's Storrs, Connecticut, and 3 schools proximity to a beach.
The second time that's
that have
happened.
never
in
made a
Houston.
Final Four, which you think, hey, they'll go, but you got to have a fan base too.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley. There's Jimmy. We'll get an update coming up in the next hour as well.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com. Live from the Host Coffee Studio, this is 1620 The Zone. 1620 The Zone. Traffic.
From the Zoom Drain Time-Saving Traffic Center. We have no accidents to report at this time, but you can expect a little bit of slowdown from 180th to 156th on Center. Then on Dodge, there's a very minor slowdown from 80th to 72nd. And other than that, it looks like your commute this morning should be pretty smooth, even if you're running a bit late. As always, remember to stay safe and wear your seatbelts. I'm Chris Scott. This time, Saving Traffic is brought to you by Prairie Construction.
Are you or someone you know in the commercial construction business and your job's hit a dead end? Are you ready for a new job with a quality construction company? Well, maybe it's time to make that change, and Prairie Construction might be just right for you. Learn about us at prairie-construction.com.
One of the Nebraska Lottery's most explosively fun promotions is back. Cash Blast. Until April 18th, buy a 2x2 ticket, enter the voucher number, and you could win $5,000 or $500. If your winning voucher is from a 7-day draw ticket or a multiple of 7 ticket, your prize is doubled. There will be 7 weekly drawings and 14 total winners in Cash Blast. So play today. You'll have a blast. But that goes without saying. 2x2 top prize odds 1 in 105,000. Did you know that when you play games from the Nebraska Lottery, you're also supporting and even... That's right. Since 1993, the Nebraska Lottery has raised more than $900 million for Nebraska's environment, educational opportunities, and state fair. So to everyone who plays, we say, the Nebraska Lottery, 30 years of building up
for locally landscape materials. Rooted in tradition, our products and services are consistently ranked best of Omaha in quality and value. From design to install, our experts are here to help bring your landscape vision to life. Start your next project this weekend. Visit us at 192nd and Center, Lenahan Nurseries, your homegrown headquarters since 1974.
The brand new Dollar General Distribution Center in Blair is now hiring. Starting wage is up to $22 per hour with benefits including medical, dental, vision, 401k, and a $2,000 sign-on bonus. Apply today by texting DG Warehouse to 25000 or online at dollargeneral.com/careers. Again, apply today by texting DG Warehouse to 25000 or online at dollargeneral.com/careers. Dollar General can't wait to have you become a team member at their brand new distribution center.
Ever walk through a door and see all the trucks? Yeah, It's kind of like that at Gretna Auto Outlet. Half-ton trucks, 3/4-ton trucks, dualies, gas or diesel. Gretna Auto Outlet will be happy to show it to you. They don't call it truck heaven for nothing, you know. Stop in the climate-controlled comfort of the indoor showroom or online with the virtual showroom at GretnaAuto.com. Gretna Auto Outlet, open Sundays too, just north of Nebraska Crossing on Highway 6 in Gretna.
Creighton baseball is back on the radio this season. I'm John Bishop. Check out the complete schedule of broadcast games on 1620thezone.com and gocreighton.com. Baseball on the radio. The Creighton Blue Jays on 1180 The Zone and 1620 The Zone.
Cards issued by Celtic Bank, member FDIC.
Are you the decision maker in your company? Consider this. For the first time in decades, there's a better option for a corporate card and spend management platform. Meet Ramp, the only corporate card and spend management system designed to help you spend less money so you can make more. Most corporate credit cards offer points as incentives, but those points amount to less than their worth in real cash value. Ramp's business cards offer you cash back, real money in your pocket. Plus, you control who spends what with each vendor. And Ramp's software collects and verifies receipts automatically, which means you'll stop wasteful spending and close your books in hours instead of days. Businesses that use Ramp add up to 3.5% to their bottom line the first year. If you're a decision maker, adding Ramp could be one of the best decisions you've ever made. And now get $250 when you join Ramp for free. Just go to ramp.com/sports. Ramp.com/sports. RAMP.com/sports.
Tickets for less. Best seats, best prices, no per ticket fees. Ticketsforless.com. KOZN Bellevue, Omaha, Council Bluffs. This is 1620 The Zone. Now back to mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
Because it's going to be a determination of whether or not the shot got off in time. If that happens, game's over. They have reviewed the play. Game's over. San Diego State wins. Game is over. San Diego State wins. Congratulations to the Aztecs, who make their first ever Final Four, albeit in controversial fashion.
It was a weird celebration that was drawn out. I mean, the one shining moment now will be officials looking at a replay monitor. That's all they're going to do. When the ball is tipped, they will immediately go to video of all of the reviews that we've had during the NCAA tournament.
Somebody can
The
do that on
ball is
YouTube.
tipped and it just has
The little thing where they're
hands on.
doing the rewind and the
All the different ones.
I know Mac didn't get an explanation, and the NCAA put something out. I'm asking about the timing, but it was off of Kaluma. It was going to be San Diego State's ball.
Yeah.
Did they not ever get to that? They were
Right.
just looking at the time.
And then just to kind of muddy the waters, what was Shireman's toe on the line? And then I thought Sarator explained it well during the
gotta
post game
go-
of
you
like,
gotta
you
go
got to go
across it.
across it.
Yep.
So that was a moot point anyway. It didn't even matter. They weren't looking at
wasn't
that.
going to be a Frank Reich moment in the
Right,
Super Bowl.
Yeah, there were a lot of people that don't get that. I
Yeah.
mean, he was fine. He did not cross the line. So Shireman could do what he did without getting a whistle. Welcome back in Mornings with Sharp and Handley. The morning after the Final Four is set, and Creighton falls 57-56.
Hey, at least opening days this week.
It is. It is. We still have a lot to talk about over the weekend. Do you guys believe this? So ESPN had 20 million brackets submitted. 37 of those predicted this Final Four.
No,
Wait,
I don't believe that.
it's actually 37 people that
Yep. San Diego State, Miami, UConn, and Florida Atlantic.
How the hell?
0.000185% of the brackets predicted this Final Four. The only thing I can think of is you went with the ESPN generated bracket. There can't be 37 people in this country that said, "Oh man, this is going to be great. March Madness is going to be wild. I've got these 4 teams."
Yeah.
San Diego State. UConn, you could make a case.
Sure.
For. So
A
this
lot of people had UConn.
So
in the
this is
Final
going to
Four.
be a unique Final Four. But if UConn wins the national title, you'd be like, you know what? Not necessarily does 3 weeks of basketball mimic the regular season and the marathon that is the regular season, but UConn winning, yeah, that makes sense. You did not have FAU.
Nope.
You did not have FAU. And I mean, I could see it making a case for Miami. They got to the Elite Eight last year. They get one more. But come on, you didn't have FAU.
No.
Most people don't even know where FAU is if it's not for Seinfeld and the Golden Girls.
Del
Perfectly
Boca,
put.
Del Boca Vista.
Doug, old man Doug, has responded
All
into
right. He's good.
His inbox.
He's with
the
us.
Equitable Bank inbox.
Hey, Doug.
Right now, I'm too pissed and disappointed to be calling it. It was a great season, and right now, I don't want my emotions to get the best of me. I love this team, Coach Mack, and the rest of the staff. It was a difficult way to end a great season. I'll be back for more next year, and I won't participate with the Nebraska Ball Trollers. Did yesterday on social media do more for the Nebraska-Creighton basketball rivalry than Nebraska beating Creighton in Omaha back in December?
Yes. It did because
Now there were some absolute idiots
Right.
that were out there. There were other people that, your troll game was strong.
when you have a very
hell of a
sensitive
cesspool,
moment.
though.
Yeah, oh, God. I mean, you do. You have an extremely sensitive moment that emotions are very high if you're a Creighton fan. And everyone in this room can completely understand that. So when somebody comes at you that didn't even make the NIT, a fan that roots for a team that didn't even make the NIT, even has anything to say where there's the slightest bit of chest puffing at all, it's gonna infuriate you. And then all it takes is just a little bit of a match, and then you've got that entire dumpster fire going on. So yeah, it definitely. I think it put an exclamation point on what has already been going on with that.
I hope all that can come back will come back, but I don't see that happen. There'll be some decisions to be made. I mean, it's not a new discussion this morning. We've been talking about what next year could look like with the roster. A Shireman, a Kaluma. I would be surprised if Kaluma's back. I would not be surprised if Shireman's back. I would not be surprised if Trey Alexander is off to the NBA. But there's a lot of decisions to be made. That's in this day and age of rosters turning over in the portal. I mean, you really can't make a determination about next year until like July 1st.
Right.
Like Nebraska football. Nebraska football's roster July 1st is going to look different.
Yep.
So there's, you're wasting time trying to figure out what this team is going to do. Wait till July 1st. Wait till you got your Phil Steele magazine. I think the same way in basketball. Because Creighton will probably have a key guy or two out of the portal. They will retain a good majority of this roster. They may lose a couple of older guys that see, not enough minutes in front of them. They decide to move on. But if your core comes back, you're a preseason top 5 team.
Yep.
You are a preseason top 5 team if you have at least your core comes back with a departure or two. You're a top 5 team next year. Now, to the part of the end of the game, during the top of the hour break, I went and looked at that Trey Alexander shot again. Goodness gracious. I still don't know how that did not fall. The basketball gods were not on the side of Trey Alexander on that shot because it's basketball, but how did that not drop? So let's go to the end of the game scenario after the bad pass by San Diego State that Shireman collected, laid it up and in, 56-56. And I think that stuck in the back of Mac's head because I know after the game that determining when you were going to foul, he felt confident that basically San Diego State cannot execute sideline out of bounds plays.
Right. They had to burn a timeout, and then you saw the result out of the timeout.
And even the one they got in, I mean, a rope and the big sneakers were shuffling a little bit.
Yep.
And a rope didn't. The Nemhard off the turn and where he was trailing Trammell, a rope was just kind of lost, and they bumped him. It wasn't. They wouldn't have called that a legal screen. But I didn't like when they fouled because it shut off the shot clock. And so it gave San Diego State a chance to play at the end because if you don't burn it, if you don't burn your foul to give that early, you could maul somebody in those last seconds, and it's still just a foul, as long as they're not shooting. It's still just a foul, and they get the ball out of bounds. And you still have a chance with the shot clock going to get the ball back. I think the poor pass to make it 56-56 dictated the decision. I did not like when they gave up that foul to give that shut off the shot clock and essentially gave San Diego State a last chance to do what they did.
Yeah.
I disagreed with that. And I really, really disagreed with taking the timeout before Trammell shot the free throws.
I want to, if in that situation, I would want to have that opportunity in my back pocket that the worst case scenario, whether it's Trammell or anybody else, a rope, you name them, gets a shot as the shot clock expires, gets one down, that you have the ability to be able to counter that. You have the ability to get back up the floor and counter that. And you also would have had timeout. Now, what's I want to be clear is what about it would have been 2 to 3 seconds difference between shot clock and game clock, I believe, until that timeout is called. I'm sorry, until that you get the foul called, then it takes it all the way down. Shot clock is now off because you got a fresh shot clock. There was only 6, and a few tenths seconds left. That's how I would always look at it. Now, again, when you're watching the game, when you're looking at your scouting report, when you are going over everything that you feel confident your team can do, obviously there's going to be a different perspective. And I'm not trying to say I know better than Mac, but yeah, for me, realizing, oh gosh, they just lost the shot clock now. Now, if you're in that situation offensively, you're thinking, okay, first of all, you add more to your possession and you get the very last say on this thing. And given how, and I don't want to say that Dutcher would have been thinking about this or anybody else playing Creighton would have been thinking about this, but given how cold yet how always dangerous Creighton is, you don't want to give them any time left in the clock because then you miss that shot, get a long rebound, all of a sudden Creighton can win the game. They could dagger that. And what is funny about this entire tournament, out of all the craziness that we've seen, yesterday's free throw with 2 whatever seconds left was as close to a buzzer beater as we've had. There's been no buzzer beaters at all. So we're due. I would not want to lose that opportunity to get another possession, whether to win the game or to match what San Diego State would have done. So that's why I didn't like it. But I think you're absolutely right. I think, and Mac even kind of said as much after the game, they felt very confident with the type of set that they were going to come out with in the inbound. And I think as he saw just moments before that, what transpired with them having to force a timeout where there wasn't a guy even close to being open. And then you have the complete disarray that led to Shireman basically getting a nice little lob pass from a different guy, from someone who wasn't on his team to tie the game up.
See, the other one I didn't like, and I'm not a fan of the half-court heave within that situation. And granted, Shireman is, a quarterback, and they've run plays like that this year, and he's the inbounder, and rightfully so. I mean, the guy has a rocket. I mean, we saw him through about 94 feet. I just don't like that all of a sudden everybody thinks we're Leitner.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of to half court, turn, shot, possibly that was your best option because it more or less seemed like your option was we're just hoping to pick up a foul and we go to the free throw line. Instead of we've got to play set. It essentially turned to the Hail Mary in football.
Yeah.
Instead of we got to play set where we get a cutter or somebody that is at half court. But again, you didn't have that timeout. I didn't like that timeout right before Trammell shot the free throws. It just, the last minute on both sides was just clunky.
Yeah.
Just, somebody said, man, that was a classic. I got no rooting interest. That wasn't. That was a brutal game.
Mm-hmm.
Overtime would have been equally brutal because you had a lot of legs that were not under them.
I mean, I'm not a fan of war of attrition.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not a fan of the way San Diego State plays. That's bad for our game. It's bad for the game of college basketball.
Agreed.
Where we want to grow the game and grow offense. I can't watch San Diego State, but good on them. They win that way, and they drew Creighton into that where the half court offense got stuck. And they made it physical, and they weren't being penalized for it. They got what they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
They completely shifted that game after the first 15 minutes.
Yeah, and real quickly on the full court heave. And They didn't show it enough to see if there was, say, a cutter a little bit closer to half court. If that was an option that was taken away, that San Diego State forced that basically that deep corner, coffin corner, if you will.
It didn't seem like anyone was there.
I didn't think so either. But let's say Kaluma catches that. You are pretty much in a corner where you're behind the hoop, as opposed to even if it is like a half court look or just, in front of it, you're at least still got a visual and you're shooting at the basket. I would take that look over being behind the basket where you have to catch over two guys and then just heave one that would have to basically go over the backboard.
My exact words are, what the hell is that?
Yeah, and again, maybe that was the only option because that was the only thing that gave him a look. But I didn't remember seeing a cutter anywhere closer.
Here is Drew. Good morning, Drew.
Hey, I am way too classy.
Been a while, by the way.
Husker fan to mention that Creighton, you didn't win the national championship, and you're not even state champions anymore. That's not me. I just want to kind of comment on the call. And Bruce Rasmussen is the smartest guy in any room he is ever in. Just put that out there right now. But he would not be on the jury. He's biased. So even though he's the smartest guy around, you can throw his comment out. Here's why that call felt right. Ryan got beat and he shoved him midair to kind of make up for that. Whereas there might be contact, but anytime you touch a shooter when you got beat and like a shove, it's going to get called. And if Charles Barkley is the only person in studio who agrees with you, you're just wrong. It was a foul. It was called. Don't touch somebody. Play defense with your feet, not your hand. So, yeah, you had a great year, but Nebraska's still state champ. Thanks.
Good, Drew.
Well, I thought Drew wasn't going to mention that. No, he just did. Come on, Drew.
I haven't heard from Drew in a long time. Keep going back. Do not give him a reason to make a call.
Yep.
No, don't get beat.
You
Stay
got
in
beat.
front of you.
Well, I mean, I don't say don't get beat. I mean, there was a reason he tried to avoid a rope. I mean, that was just it was a weird 6.7 seconds when you go to the inbound. First of all, can we have a sense of urgency these days in basketball, please?
Oh, God, I thought he didn't realize what the clock was for a second.
So they had...
He got 3 seconds before he moved.
It didn't seem like they had a sense of urgency on that final play.
No, none at all.
I mean, it was clunky.
So he tried to avoid a rope, so he's already trailing. Now, if you have a foul to give, you foul him. I mean, you foul him before he ever attempts to shoot. Boom, there we go. Okay, so that goes back to, I didn't like when they gave the foul away. But in an ISO play where there's not a lot of traffic around, and you got an officials don't want to make that call in that moment until they're forced to. And in that case, you were forced to because it was pretty clear of where Nembhard's hand was. Whether Trammell was pushed, because in real time, does it look like he all of a sudden jerks?
No.
But you gave him a reason to make that call. That's
and there's clearly that grab.
well, and you've got an official that where there's no traffic around, you've got a clear angle at it. Now, here's the other thing. Michael asked on Twitter, if they don't make that call, is there an outrage?
No.
I
mean,
I don't think so.
I don't think there is either.
No, when we go to overtime,
Yeah.
watch some more basketball.
Well, I go back to something I brought up in the first hour, and we heard John and Nick talking about it in their initial reaction when it was called. So many of us were focusing on the hand up by the ball. Did he make contact with his hand, with Trammell's hand as it is released?
Yep.
That's where everybody's focus was. It wasn't until when they made the call that you see, and they do a great job immediately zooming in on it, of the left hand getting the waist.
Yeah, in real time, you think it's upstairs.
Right.
He hit the arm.
And so if they don't make that call, I don't even think they're even zooming in. I don't think people, unless you were on the floor, realize that that was an issue. So yeah, I don't think there's an outrage at all.
All right, 23 past the hour. It's just the tournament, man. Just I started this morning. I can't get it out of my head. That's going to stick, and it's not going to be 1.2 if you're a Creighton player.
No.
Or you're have an emotional investment. Don't focus on 1.2. Focus on 40 minutes of basketball.
Focus on the first 15 minutes.
Well, and
where you're playing a winning
well,
brand of basketball.
Well, and then you have to adjust, and they just never adjusted. And goodness gracious, again, that's twice I've used that word, and the phrase in this hour is the shots at the rim, and not all of them were. Man, there was contact there. There were the back-to-back Kalkbrenner misses.
That's the stuff.
Where essentially you just stuff the ball down.
Timeout, Shiren. You get a play design and you get an air ball.
His reaction when he was laying on the floor and what he said, that's about right.
Yeah.
That's what you're thinking.
Yeah, tip of the cap to San Diego State.
Absolutely.
They took Kalkbrenner out of the game.
Well,
in the second half.
And guys, I know for an offense that was as stagnant as San Diego State was too, and my God, in the first half, there were just some awful misses by San Diego State.
At the
You're
rim.
talking about air balls. Yes.
At the rim.
Yeah.
They missed a dunk. They missed a couple of layups.
They're awful. But they're getting, what do they have, 13 offensive rebounds. I know in a game that's very low scoring, you're thinking, yeah, but how many of those do they convert? But it always seemed like when they got it, it was at the biggest moment. Like there was one that led to another miss, and they get another offensive rebound. Then that eventually leads to a three. And you think about 3-point shots at a premium in this game and the point differential in this game. You think about those moments and Creighton's inability to just clean up the glass like that too, even for a team that's offensively struggling. Well, that's a way to help a struggling offense right there. Give them second, third opportunities. And San Diego State, they did enough defensively and enough to make Creighton uncomfortable there in the second half that you got to tip your cap to them. The rope story is great that I know we'll have time to get to at some point, either today or this week, as you got a kid from Omaha South going to the Final Four. But again, for Creighton fans right now, it stings, and I get that. But there were just so many damn opportunities to make that a non-issue at the end.
Yeah, San Diego State scored 7 points in the last 4 minutes, and Matt Bradley had 2 points. And was on the bench. And was on the bench. Well, he had 2 points in the last 7:40. He was on the bench for the last 7:40. Yeah, Bradley was bad.
8 total between Alabama and Creighton. If you would have said San Diego State's going to be in the Final Four and Bradley is going to combine for 8, what the hell happened to Bama and Creighton? And
What
that's
they eat?
it's
Did they
kind
eat
of what
something
it
bad,
is.
or did they go out on the town?
But again, 5 of 44 between the two.
But
defensively holding those guys 3-point shots.
You could tell their strategy. Ugly the game, and then at the end, hey, hope someone makes a play.
All right, time for headlines. Here's Jimmy.
Well, this can't get forgotten about in general because late last night, Caitlin Clark triple-double, leading Iowa to the women's Final Four in a 97-83 win over Louisville. 41 points, 12 assists, 10 rebounds. That's unreal. She had 33 through the third quarter and then hit a three-pointer in the opening minute of the fourth. The Hawkeyes hit 16 threes, including Clark, 8 for 14. One of them was almost from the half-court logo, it looked like.
So she was assisted or scored on 70 of their 97 points last night.
Unbelievable. 11 of 19 from the field, and then she was 11 of 13 at the foul line. It's the Hawkeyes' first Final Four since 1993. They will meet the winner of tonight's game between South Carolina and Maryland in Friday night's Final Four in Dallas. Max Anderson and Gabe Swanson hit 2 homers in Nebraska's 10-7 loss to Illinois. The series finale yesterday at Hawks Field. By the way, how'd your game go Friday? Do you the voice hold up?
The way I described it, Brunsey asked me, he goes, it's not quite the same, is it? And I said, you know what? I don't have my best stuff, so I'm just trying to figure out a way to get outs.
So you got
I wasn't blown anything by anyone. I was just trying to get outs. So I got outs on Friday.
Huskers win the series, though. They have won a weekend series against 4 consecutive opponents with series wins against Illinois, Nichols, Illinois State, South Alabama. They're 13-8-1. They'll host North Dakota State tomorrow night. Nebraska softball sweeps Purdue, winning yesterday 4-2. They improved to 23-9, 3-0 in league play. They'll play a doubleheader in Iowa City tomorrow. LeBron James returned yesterday, a little ahead of schedule for the Lakers, and of course they lost at home to the Chicago Bulls, 118-108 at the former Staples Center. He had 19 points, shooting 6 of 11 from the field, 8 rebounds and 3 assists. The loss drops LA to number 9 in the Western Conference standings, but only 2 games behind the number 6 Golden State Warriors, who are starting to somewhat warm up with 7 games remaining. And congratulations to Luka Doncic, who is facing a 1-game suspension after being called for his 16th technical foul of the season. during Sunday's road loss to the Hornets.
I wouldn't say congratulations. You got to play with Kyrie.
Well, it's all, you know
what? About the fan thrown out for the Kyrie altercation too?
They've fallen apart down the stretch. They're now 10.
Huh, shock.
Yeah. That's what I thought.
Weird.
They're 10.
Shock. What happens to that locker room?
Yeah.
You know, give Luka credit, but he's still no Dylan Brooks. Come on.
I mean,
talk to me when you get to 18.
They're one game back of the Thunder, and it seems like they're 5 games back because they really have fallen apart. He was called for the tee in the third quarter for arguing a no call after missing a shot on a drive to the basket. Unless the league office rescinds the technical today, he'll serve the suspension tonight when the Mavs play on the road at Indiana. Crew chief Kevin Scott said in a poll report after the game that he used a profanity directed at the officials in a protest to a no call that was correctly judged in a post-game review. So he's had quite the week with officials.
He has.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Jimmy. A little bit later, Brian Munson will stop by, recap on Nebraska's big football recruiting weekend. Recruits went to a baseball game. They went to a softball game. They took a lot of pictures.
Yeah.
Nick's voice on the PA, did it help in any way?
Hopefully that didn't deter them. Hopefully they got out of town before yesterday morning, too. Didn't see that snow.
Also, thankfully, I did not see a lot of recruit pictures in uniform that were white on white. Thank you.
It seems, like
white,
it's back to
white
normal.
on red.
Mhm.
White on red. Thank you. I do get the suspicion that red on red is popular.
Uh-oh.
But the road uniform, white on red, please. I don't need to see white on white. I know kids maybe go, ooh, white on white, stormtroopers.
Would you rather see red on red over white on white?
Yes.
I would rather see white on white.
I don't like the white on white look.
I don't like it when
I don't
like either one of them, but if I had to
NFL
choose,
team.
I like white on white over red on red for Nebraska, that is.
All right. Thank you, Jimmy. 7:30. We're back. We'll get some emails on Creighton's game yesterday in the tournament moving forward without Drew Timme and without, a lot of questions at Gonzaga after they were blown out. They ran into a buzzsaw. FAU is in 35-3. No accident. And Miami storms back. Jordan Miller scores 27. He's perfecto. And Miami is dancing along with San Diego State. We're back with more Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
All right, a big announcement coming up for Woodhouse Mazda and the good folks at Mazda in their new SUV lineup. Coming soon to Woodhouse Place Mazda and Woodhouse Mazda, you can be the first to experience Mazda's flagship 3-row SUV, the Mazda CX-90. It is the first ever nationally available plug-in hybrid electrical vehicle from Mazda. And of course, it comes with all of your comforts in mind. Everything from the safety features that I talk about a lot. We're talking about design, technology, and performance that will exhilarate your senses from every walk of the experience with this great car. Mazda CX-90 also boasting Mazda's most powerful engine to date. And with every Mazda SUV, we talk about the technology of safety features. We're talking all-wheel drive, Mazda radar cruise control, also the stop-and-go rear traffic cross alert, and that's just to name a few. You can learn more about the first ever 2024 Mazda CX-90 online at woodhousemazda.com or woodhouseplacemazda.com. Chat with a sales team member online, easily schedule a test drive or check vehicle availability, and so much more. Woodhouse Mazda, a drive worth experiencing.
Gary Sharp, Nick Handley, and Jimmy Chavez. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Weekdays 6 to 10. On 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com. Mornings on 1620 The Zone is brought to you by MD West One Orthopedics, Neurosurgery, and Spine. Previously on The Crossover.
How is there no flavor?
There's so much flavor.
What is wrong with your taste buds?
Flavor
bland.
The soft shell is going to have more flavor after the fact because it soaks up all the juices from the meat and everything, whereas the hard shell, it just gets soggy.
But Nick, how slow are you eating your tacos? If you're doing it right, you don't have to worry about the corn
Some people
shell
like their
getting
tacos
soggy.
eaten for a long time, John.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley. The Connor Happer Show. Unsportsmanlike conduct. 6A to 6P. 1620 The Zone. Your Omaha area forecast from the Godfather's Pizza Weather Center and KETV News Watch 7 on 1620 The Zone.
After a cold start this morning, we'll see increasing clouds with chilly temperatures continuing into your afternoon. High today in Omaha near 42 degrees with northerly winds between 5 to 10 miles an hour. Cold again here tonight, staying mostly cloudy with some clearing skies late, low near 25. I'm meteorologist Caitlin Harvey with KETV News Watch 7.
1620, The Zone. Traffic.
From the Zoom Drain Time-Saving Traffic Center. We have one accident to report at Fort Crook Road at Chandler Road, so please be cautious if you are in that area. Then along L Street, be prepared for a little bit of slowdown from 56 to 48th, and on Dodge, be prepared for a little bit of slowdown from 94th to 90th. As always, remember to stay safe and wear your seatbelts. I'm Chris Scott. This time-saving traffic was brought to you by Fernando's.
Love Languages, presented by Fernando's. 2 acts of service.
I made you tacos.
Come and feel the love at Fernando's, 75th and Pacific, 114th and Dodge, and FernandosOmaha.com.
The brand new Dollar General Distribution Center in Blair is now hiring. Starting wage is up to $22 per hour with benefits including medical, dental, vision, 401k, and a $2,000 sign-on bonus. Apply today by texting DG Warehouse to 25000 or online at dollargeneral.com/careers. Again, apply today by texting DG Warehouse to 25000 or online at dollargeneral.com/careers. Dollar General can't wait to have you become a team member at their brand new distribution center.
Progressive presents 10 things on a contractor's to-do list that are harder than getting a commercial auto insurance quote. Bidding a new client, giving an accurate estimate, finding affordable materials, getting a client to pay you for work you already did, getting a client to pay you, period, securing permits and workers and tools, getting those workers and tools to work together, and finding the perfect pair of overalls. Pockets, baby. But the easiest thing on a small business owner's to-do list? Seeing if you can save on commercial auto insurance. Get a quote in as little as 6 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Coverage subject to policy terms and conditions.
Yes, we do have availability. Those dates for how many guests?
Andrea's Boutique Hotel is the destination to tie the knot.
Oh, you want the whole property?
She needs an assistant to catch the bookings bouquets.
249 guests, huh? Oh, and 3 dogs.
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. We instantly connect you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
I thought learning a language would be too much work. Then I discovered Babbel. They make learning fun. J'aime Babbel.
Babbel's lessons only take 10 or 15 minutes. Quick and easy. And soon, you turn and realize, hey, I'm starting to speak another language. How'd that happen?
My friend from Italy said my accent and pronunciation is perfect. It's because Babbel's lessons are designed by language teachers and voiced by real native speakers. Each lesson is like living in another country for 15 minutes.
I love that there's all kinds of ways to learn. Babbel's podcast or games or videos. You can even join live classes with a language teacher.
You learn words and phrases you actually use in real conversations.
In 3 weeks, I was starting to speak in another language. So easy.
If you want to learn a language, there's no faster, easier, better way than Babbel.
Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's Babbel.com. Babbel.com.
Make the right call, fans. The Rooferees at John Higgins Weather Guard.
Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. EquitableOnline.com.
Now back to mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
All right, we've made it to the first 90 minutes. No one has dropped a secession recap of the return last night. I've not seen it, so thank you.
I'm just getting into it. I'm interested. Very interested.
Just gotten a brief taste that last night was pretty good. So welcome back. Welcome back to everyone. There's Nick, Jimmy, Gary. Jimmy in his update, if you didn't stay up to watch it last night, and you mentioned Agueka Rope, which is still wild. He was the 2016 High School Player of the Year in the state of Nebraska and is still playing college basketball. And it ends the journey, gets him to the Final Four, the pride of Omaha South. Jim Molinari comes along and says, Tim Miles, he can't play in the Big Ten. Oh, okay. We're going to pull a scholarship. All hell breaks loose. But good for Aguek because he's been at San Diego State forever. And he gets to the tournament. You also have Taylor McCabe from Fremont, who's a freshman over at Iowa. She's going to the Final Four with the Iowa women who were there for the first time since 1993 when the WNBA didn't even exist. Cheryl Swoops was the best player from Texas Tech.
47 points in the championship game.
So Caitlin Clark, we've talked about her many times. She is transcendent. She is must watch. She is the best basketball player ever in the history of Iowa basketball, men or women. Still got another year. So she goes with a 40-point triple-double. Let me give you some nuggets on her. And if South Carolina wins today, and there's no reason to think they won't, because for South Carolina gets better. It's unbelievable. South Carolina women get better. Friday night, you will have South Carolina against Iowa in the women's Final Four in Dallas. And because of Caitlin Clark and a little bit of South Carolina, but more Caitlin Clark, people will find a way to watch that game that don't normally follow women's basketball. Caitlin Clark draws eyeballs. I imagine last night, Louisville, Iowa, the ratings are really, really good. So let me give you a couple of things about her. And I can't believe I've said good things about somebody that went to West Des Moines Dowling High School. I hate Dowling. I went there as a freshman. Okay, my experience as a Maroon, not so good. Much better being a Jayhawk at Urbandale. But Caitlin Clark went to West Des Moines Dowling, and now she's doing those kind of things at Iowa. And I know people don't like her personality, and her game is a roller coaster. She had the triple-double, but she also had 10 turnovers last night. But you watch because of how good she is, and at times she's unguardable. The other thing that stands out, man, her conditioning is unreal. Just like Max Asmus at Oral Roberts, they never get tired. And they've got the ball in their hands all the time. And they're running with the ball. They're, slow walk with the ball. She never gets tired. So her conditioning is amazing. But I'm going to give you some nuggets here. Last night, she scores 41. 5 times this year, she has outscored the Iowa football team.
That's a whole box of nuggets.
Her 41 points last night were more than Iowa football scored combined in the Iowa State, South Dakota State, and Nevada game. Basically, they're non-con.
Yep, the non-con portion.
Caitlin Clark has been in Iowa City for 3 years. Her career average is 26.9 points per game. Brian Ferentz has been in Iowa City way too long. His last 3 years, guiding the Iowa offense, 23.2 points per game. Now, Caitlin Clark, best Iowa basketball player ever. Get to the phones, get to the message board.
See, I thought you were going to be making references to, some great performances in NCAA tournament history or some references.
No, I knew where.
But that was
subtle.
Well played.
Nice 20-piece nuggets with a large fry.
When you can bring up the non-conference
big ass drink,
offensive output, which was exhilarating for that Iowa offense. That the more you can do that, the better. That was well done.
Iowa plays in Lincoln next year in the Big Ten. I mean, there's no guarantee, but everybody's going to want Iowa to play a road game at their place. Okay,
she's good for business.
She increased attendance on average of 3,000 more people went to games where Iowa was on the road. You saw what kind of crowd that when Iowa and Nebraska played. If Iowa is at Nebraska again next year, there's no guarantee with the schedule. Place will be sold out, and they will come to watch 22 play.
And the swag that she has, it adds to it. I mean, she's the numbers, her ability speaks for itself, but wouldn't it kind of suck if she was, kind of ho-hum, quiet, just, a real, she's not a hard worker, but just keeps her nose to the ground and just produces without any, real sort of flair. Like, I love the fact that she brings that element to it, because when you're going beyond your fan base, when you're going into even like Big Ten rivals arenas, you need to have a little bit of that. And now you're taking that to the national stage as well, which she has been doing. I mean, it's not like all of a sudden now that they're in the Final Four that people are going to take notice. They've been taking notice of Caitlin Clark. But the fact that she does have that confidence, that swag, it's huge. It's great for the game. It's great for what has already been a very successful women's basketball tournament when it comes to the visibility, when it comes to people paying attention. And now you've got this player kind of cocky, but she can back it up. She's very, very confident.
Oh,
it's awesome.
Her passing, she sees the whole floor.
Yeah.
It's the whole experience.
It's great.
She's the only player that I know, men or women. So Holly Rowe, who is a great asset to women's basketball, working the sidelines for ESPN. And ESPN, because they own the women's tournament, they promote it like none other. And I think it's helped elevate the women's game and attention to the Caitlin Clarks, the Aaliyah Bostons, the Van Lees from Louisville, Reese from LSU. I mean, these players, it's not just the Cavender twins. So ESPN's did a good job of promoting individuals in the women's game. I've never seen this last night. And I don't know if it was because when they went to halftime to do the interview, Jan Jensen, who lost her father yesterday, and this will age you. I remember watching her at the Iowa High School girls basketball tournament. I'm pretty sure she was from Elkhorn Kimballton. And in 6-on-6, she was like dominating. Maybe she was supposed to do the halftime interview. They interviewed Caitlin Clark going into halftime. They interviewed a player. I have never, ever seen that in college athletics where they do these in-game interviews or halftime interviews. Never with a player.
No, you don't want to mess with a student athlete. You don't do that.
They interviewed Caitlin Clark last night at halftime.
That gives you a good sense of
this is different.
That person, her ability, what she means. Because that's the whole thing is we're not even going to try to interrupt the student athlete's concentration. The coaches, they're paid for this. This is part of the gig. This is what they do. You don't do that with the student athletes, but that tells you a lot right there.
She's a good interview.
Mm-hmm.
She's got some personality.
Yep.
She's interviewed everywhere.
And she knows it. It's good for the brand.
And she'll play Friday night against South Carolina. And, you know, she saved some of her best games against the best teams. I think that's going to be a very difficult matchup. But, I mean, who's doubting somebody that just had a 40-point triple-double?
I'll be watching that. That's exciting.
In the Equitable Bank inbox, Amazing Mets. Hello, William. I wonder how he's feeling about Verlander. I don't know if you guys saw that over the weekend. Verlander might be injured. Aggressive fouls going for steals. If don't get the steal, then go to the line for one-on-one. I think I send them. Oh, he's talking about the alternate strategy too, with a foul to give yesterday that Creighton used late. Aggressive fouls going for steals. If I don't get the steal, then go to the line for a 1-on-1. I think I send them the line with 20 seconds left. I'd rather have the ball with a chance to win. I'd like to see the analytics in that situation. Another email here on the call. As a Husker fan, I'm not going to troll Creighton. They were in the Elite Eight, and we were at home, so I'm not going to go there. Congrats on a great season. But that foul was the right call. Nemhard gave them a reason to make the call. He got beat, started reaching, and since he played D with his hands instead of moving his feet, he put the official in a bad spot to make a decision. Play better defense. The ref is not in position to make that call. Simple.
He's not wrong.
Right. The frustration that I know a lot of people had was, where were those calls earlier in the game? You make it at the end, and this is where I can understand that argument. And I can understand that when it comes to consistency on how a game is being officiated, no matter what sport we're talking about, that is always sort of a tough pill to swallow. But are we debating the foul? No, I don't think anybody is. In fact, in some of the most staunch criticism towards that moment, I don't think anybody is debating if it was a foul. The question they have is, why wasn't that a foul earlier in the game? Why didn't you see that called earlier in the game as much? It's a fair question, but I also go back to the instincts of an official. When you see that, you have the whistle right there. I just think it's the initial instinct to blow the whistle. I don't think you're necessarily processing, have we called that throughout this game or not? And this would be better explained by an official, whether it's Higgy or anybody else.
That's actually where my mind went. It's like, I wonder what they'd say.
Yeah, like in a moment where you've got a game that's trending a certain way where it's kind of, we're under the impression of, hey, they're letting them play. And then you see that as an official in that moment, what's going through your head? Are you processing the trend of the game of letting them play, or did you see a foul and that registers as got to call that? I can't really answer that question because I'm not an official, but I do wonder about just in the moment, as opposed to what everybody wants to point to, the way the game was officiated, you make that call in that moment. Would you, and when I say you, anybody who is very highly critical of making that call in that moment, considering how the rest of the 38 minutes were playing, would you have the restraint of not calling it? Because I think some people would also make that call.
Joe, on a different, on National Joe Day.
Yeah, Happy Year Day.
Yeah.
I was trying to be respectful.
Do cool
I
stuff.
didn't mention Joe Mama. Everybody's.
I did
having
think
to
Joe
say
Mama.
Joe Mama.
It crossed my mind.
Yeah.
Now I'm thinking of all different little funny fake. We once went to a ball game when I was in minor league baseball. Went to an opposing league park. I knew the press box number. I called up there and said, "Hey, I'm missing my brother. Can you have him paged? I'm looking for Ray King. This is Joe King." But Joe writes in, "What is the review procedure for the hook call against Kalkbrenner?" Oh, the famous hook and hold, which is reviewable, that was called yesterday on Kalkbrenner. There was an official standing right there as it happened, and only later was there a review and a flagrant one, 2 made free throws. That is how the hook, that is textbook hook and hold. That has been around now for about 5 years, 6 years. The whole Isaac Haas thing when he fractured his elbow, actually in a tournament game against Cal State Fullerton, and they instituted, the hook and hold, and we're going to review it. So that was textbook hook and hold, and that's kind of how it's supposed to be called. Is you go to the review. There are very few times where the official in the moment will call the hook and hold.
Yeah,
it's usually something happens, and they go, "Okay, we think it is, but let's go to the review monitor." So in that case, that was the correct call.
Right. When you think someone might have maybe even got elbowed, same thing, that even if you didn't see it in the moment, you can still slow it down, make sure that there wasn't a flagrant one or anything worse that you want to make sure that you have. I mean, every sport now has the ability to do that. Basketball's been doing that, for a couple of years.
Again, it just gave us another opportunity for officials to go to the replay monitor.
I hope you're right, though, on one shining moment that as soon as the ball is tipped, you just see the headset going on to the officials and you just get a bunch of different reviews. And then when they come out of the review and they wave something off or they give you something, like then you see the crowd reaction of like cheering.
Somebody's
instead of
working
like a
on
big
it
hoop.
already. It'll be on YouTube.
Well,
by the
because we
middle of the
haven't,
week.
cross our fingers, maybe this week, we haven't had any buzzer beaters. Like yesterday's free throw. But Trammell was like the closest thing. I mean, I guess we could kind of count Furman's shot against Virginia as sort of a buzzer beater, but it wasn't. There's still some time left. There hasn't been any buzzer beaters.
That was a ridiculous way to end the game yesterday. That was about a 5-minute review. It just, like, the celebration was muted.
Yeah.
They've determined the game is over. That's how the Creighton season ended.
Play, band, play.
And you saw the
Well, the crowd
reaction of
goes wild.
what is San Diego State supposed to do?
Yeah.
Yay.
We won the review too.
It was off of Kaluma. That should have been the first look.
Yep.
Okay. Whose ball is it going to be? And then we go from there. That's what we've become
Didn't
in
get
college.
the stopwatch.
Becoming college basketball. Yeah, that became. Now, there's always a stopwatch at the scores
Yes.
table in case the clock goes bad. But that, thankfully for Gene Steratore, and I know a lot of people, he protects the officials in the NFL and in college basketball, the two areas where he used to be. But thankfully, he was there yesterday to explain the whole stopwatch thing. Again, I think Ian Eagle, who is going to do a great job replacing Jim Nance, better play-by-play guy. I think he was like, stopwatch, what are we doing here? I would like to, and there's one quick thing. We'll get to a couple calls to finish out the hour. So watching, in particular, the Iowa-Louisville game last night, why in college women's basketball, and again, this is your wheelhouse, Jimmy, just like in the NBA, the officials will explain the call into a microphone. Why don't we have that in college men's basketball? You know how in the NBA they explain the call or what they're looking at?
Yeah.
In women's basketball, they explain what the call is or what they're looking at a microphone there at courtside. How come we don't do that in the men's game?
I actually wondered that too.
See, wouldn't it have been better yesterday when they went to the monitor at the end, they explain what they're looking at instead of all the speculation of, okay, are they looking at the time? Are they looking at who had went out of bounds?
Yeah.
And then
it's over?
Then they explain, instead of blowing your whistle and waving the game and the game is over, explain, basically, we determined through the use of a stopwatch that the clock had run out and there's 0 time left, game is over.
Yeah, especially when there's a couple different things that they could be looking at and you're not sure as the fan. This is why I'm glad that, even
I
hockey,
wasn't even thinking that's what they were looking at.
right. Now that you've got hockey that's done that from the NHL now to the college game, because when, you've got so much going on the ice, you don't know. It could have been away from the play that you now have them explaining to the crowd. This is what we're going to take a look at, and we're going to try to determine that. I think yesterday would have been a perfect opportunity to have that in place.
Good morning, Jesse.
Good morning, guys.
How are we doing today?
We're all right. So just want to chime in here, just based off of reactions. My friends, my relatives, who are all rooting for Creighton. I don't know if it's my age or maybe where I'm from. I'm an East Coast guy originally. It seems like out here in the Midwest and Nebraska in general, everybody is always blame the refs, like a lot. Like they're more so blame the refs than blame their own team. And I'm on the other side of that coin. I'm of the mindset of don't put it in the refs' hands.
Mm-hmm.
There were several times in that game, and it's happened all season. It's not even all season. It's the McDermott era. I love McDermott. He wins the games he's supposed to win. But there are games against teams that I know, because of the style that he coaches and the players he recruits, there are games that I know are going to be like yesterday where, boy, if we win this, it's a miracle. Like they had a chance to win, but there are things they do and don't do. For example, they're just not aggressive on the boards. They get rebounds, but they're just not aggressive on the boards, and they never have been under McDermott. And that's something that, like, I'm screaming at the television. My wife's screaming with me. But we get, the game's over, and all I hear is, oh, the refs did this, the refs did. No, man, you didn't grab, like, a couple of rebounds that you should have had. Your 7-foot center had balls going off the tips of his fingers the entire tournament. Like, what are we doing here? You can't hit a 3 at all. All you need is a 2. You've got a lead, and you're still throwing up hero ball 3s instead of driving to the paint and trying to draw somebody. They didn't have any fouls because you never went to the paint. Every time anybody got in the way, you just stopped. They just stopped. So I'm more blame the players and the strategy than blame the refs. Those calls at the end don't matter if the players just do things, just are the smarter team, and they just weren't yesterday.
Hey, let me ask you a quick one. And Jesse, I always appreciate your opinion on Creighton. Moving forward, what do you think you do? And this isn't, hey, move Nembhard and Alexander out, but post Nembhard and Alexander, how do you think they should recruit the guard position to play in the Big East and also to play in March?
You need
bigger, thicker guards.
There's a mentality. You just need I hate using the word soft. I don't think Trey is soft. I think Trey all year long was our guy. Like, he was hey, we need a basket, go get one. Nembhard is a traditional nice point guard. There's an edginess he doesn't have, and I don't know if you see that too, or if you're allowed to say it, but there's an edginess that, like in the old school Big East point guards, that they were like bulldogs, man. Like, you have to just be able to put your head down and go get a bucket, just drive the lane. The closest thing we've had would probably be Mo Watson. I think
he was a smaller guy.
Mm-hmm.
Right, he's a smaller guy. Yeah, size. I don't think size matters with point guards. It's about your toughness, man. It always has been. But yeah, I just think moving forward, I wish there was a way to blend McDermott's style with a little bit more aggressiveness, especially on the offensive glass and especially under the rim when you're 7 foot tall. Attack the rim. Don't lob it in there or try to toss it. And I don't know who told. Look, I love Ryan. I know he's just a kid. I don't know who ever told Ryan Kalkbrenner that he has a hook, but he doesn't have a hook. He doesn't.
Jesse,
So, thanks, guys.
Thanks for the phone call.
Good call.
I think the Big East, and Nembhard is a playmaker and picks his spots, but thick guards that also are going to go get you a rebound or have the ability, because of their size, to block out the other guards.
Yeah.
And it didn't come back to hurt him against Baylor, but that was an issue where Baylor's guards were able to outmuscle Alexander and Nembhard for offensive rebounds. There's another part of Jesse's call. There were times yesterday where I don't know if it was because you were afraid to have your shot blocked. God, there were times that Trey would get into the paint and about mid-post slam on the brakes. Instead of trying to go to the rim, get it up on the rim, and have Kalkbrenner there to clean it up or draw a foul, he would slam on the brakes and all of a sudden would be in no man's land and pick up his dribble. And we're not turning around. Now, there were a couple times he hit shots. Now, the floater that I still can't believe didn't fall with about 33 seconds to go. But there were times that he would slam on the brakes mid-post and then not know what he was going to do with it. Instead of put it on the floor, and you've got enough of a step on a guy that you can get to the glass at least, get it up on the glass, and then see what happens. And more than likely, they're going to foul you.
Yeah, you're going to draw contact.
If you are a step ahead of them.
Yeah.
Here is Mike to finish out the hour. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning. Now, this isn't to go through every single non-call, but I am a little curious on that lob pass to Kalkbrenner, why they didn't call displacement on that in that first half when
he got elbowed.
There was a foul called, and he was going up to try to dunk it, but
they called him the
somehow
flag.
got fouled, but he didn't go. But he didn't go 1-on-1 on that thing. And secondly, I've noticed recently in the last couple of years, refs, if you pay attention closely, the referee, they will wait to see if the ball goes in before that whistle blows. There's a lot of late whistles in the last couple of years. Well, I think they watch to see if that ball goes in before they call a foul.
Yeah, Mike, I appreciate the call, and you are spot on.
Gary's going to vehemently disagree with that. No, you brought that up about over a month ago, and then I noticed it at the Kansas Baylor game when I watched that one.
So I brought it up long before you and I were together at the beginning of the year. I noticed, and probably it's been going on for a little bit. And in the NBA game, that's how it works.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some whistles where they wait to see the result of the play. And they'll either let it go if the ball drops, or if there's a foul, they will call it. And I noticed it, for some reason, I just noticed it a lot more in college basketball this year, where there's contact, and if the shot drops, and if it's not egregious, just, molesting a guy, okay, we're going to let it, the ball, you scored, boom, we'll let it go, But if we watch the shot, and if the shot doesn't go, then you get the whistle. And that's what people don't understand, is those late whistles, and they're like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Yeah.
Because was it a late whistle yesterday that also drew the ire of people going, whoa, 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 call that right away. But we're seeing more. You don't immediately have the spot on, contact happens, whistle blows. But I don't want to say it's continuation, but I've seen more in the college game of, okay, let's see what the result of the play is, and then boom, the whistle.
Yeah.
So you see a guy drive, and so he's got the layup but gets hammered, and then they wait and the ball falls off the rim. Whistle sounds.
Which that seems like, that time that takes place between the ball leaving the hand and the result of the actual shot itself, it seems like an eternity. So to wait that long to call, it's more than noticeable. It really is. Real quickly, I know we got to get a break. Back on Jesse's point too, I would say this for any of the Creighton fans right after the game yesterday, or any fan base that has ever felt like, oh my gosh, what the heck just happened? Was there a call that, maybe had an impact on the game? I feel like just like we give the players and coaches a cooling down period, I think for fans, you get that cool down period of realizing, you know what, though, think back to minute 35 where we had an opportunity. When you're waking up today and you can acknowledge that, I think that's totally acceptable. Right after the game, if you're firing away like, oh my God, that was a horrible call, it lost us the game. But then you sort of come to the realization, because I think we've all fallen victim of that, at least in the moment. But 99.9% of the time, we can all say we had other opportunities in that game to win, and you got to at least
You are not doing a good job for advertising Big Red Overreaction. we don't do Big Red Overreaction on Sundays.
That's why we want 3 hours of it right after the game.
All right, we got more emails. I got a little update from somebody that works the scorers table at major college basketball games. He said that the officials do come over to us and tell us what they're looking at before they go to the monitor. That not necessarily is relayed over the PA, is my take on that. But they do tell the scorers table what they are looking at, according to this person that works the scorers table for major college basketball. All right, break time. Brian Munson coming up. It's all been about Creighton today. We will talk about Nebraska's football recruiting weekend, because I'm very curious on, if you don't think that Dylan Raiola is coming to Nebraska, why? Why don't you? Past history, Just it's Nebraska. Just be curious, because he
Teams
has
you're up
said
against.
he has said an official visit, not to Nebraska. He's going to Georgia in June. That timeline isn't great, but what does this all mean? That's what Brian Munson will fill us in coming up at the bottom of the 8 o'clock hour. It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley with Jimmy on 1620 The Zone. All right, basketball season. Well, except for the Final Four, it is still around. But you know what? Baseball starts this week. Major League Baseball kicks off on Thursday. The Storm Chasers are around, and we've got all 3 Division I baseball teams are in action, and Tickets for Less can make it easy for you to get into the ballpark. Check them out right now, ticketsforless.com. They've got the best selection of seats at no per-ticket fees, so you can save big at checkout. Just go to ticketsforless.com. You want to see the Storm Chasers, the Royals, and more? The Royals are home beginning on Thursday. They're wearing the powder blues against the Minnesota Twins. You don't want to miss a day at the K to kick off the season or any Major League game in the area. Tickets for Less has you taken care of, and you can save even more on your next order when you enter the promo code THEZONE at ticketsforless.com.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com with Gary Sharp and Nick Handley. The best way to catch all the action is on 1620 The Zone. And no line for the bathroom.
I'm Bob Burke, founder and chairman of Burke America Parts Group, a family of brands that includes RepairClinic.com, an appliance and HVAC parts solution company that's grown into an international brand. Before AmericanEagle.com, we partially launched a new technology platform developed by another firm. American Eagle helped take our technology to a whole new level with digital marketing, software development, and business insights into our key markets, appliances, HVAC, and outdoor power equipment, and did so both on time and on budget. AmericanEagle.com has the resources, experience, and talent needed to produce solutions. Our new technology platform, developed by AmericanEagle.com, has produced tremendous results with higher traffic, conversion, engagement, and online revenue. If you have any home repairs you need to take care of, check us out at RepairClinic.com. If you need a world-class website or technology project, then I would highly recommend AmericanEagle.com.
Call AmericanEagle.com at 773-NETWORK. That's AmericanEagle.com, 773-NETWORK.
Finding great people to hire is like trying to find a needle in a haystack. It's pretty difficult, right? Well, ZipRecruiter has mastered finding a needle in a haystack, so they take it to the next level. They make hiring so simple that it's like finding a needle in a needle stack. And that's why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. Here's what it's like to use ZipRecruiter. They have so many qualified candidates that it's easier to find the right ones for your roles. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. That's a lot of needles. So how do they do it? ZipRecruiter's powerful technology sends you candidates who are a great match for your job, and you can even invite your top choices to apply. So if you want less hay and more needles, head to ZipRecruiter.
And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Cards issued by Celtic Bank, member FDIC.
Are you the decision maker in your company? Consider this. For the first time in decades, there's a better option for a corporate card and spend management platform. Meet Ramp, the only corporate card and spend management system designed to help you spend less money so you can make more. Most corporate credit cards offer points as incentives, but those points amount to less than their worth in real cash value. Ramp's business cards offer you cash back, real money in your pocket. Plus, you control who spends what with each vendor. And Ramp software collects and verifies receipts automatically, which means you'll stop wasteful spending and close your books in hours instead of days. Businesses that use Ramp add up to 3.5% to their bottom line the first year. If you're a decision maker, adding Ramp could be one of the best decisions you've ever made. And now get $250 when you join Ramp for free. Just go to ramp.com/sports. Ramp.com/sports. RAMP.com/sports.
Hey, baseball fans, join the Blur Tailgate at Hilton Omaha this June for our 11th annual hospitality event during the College Baseball Championship Series. Book an experience for your clients or employees with an inclusive bar, buffet, TVs, music, and tailgate games. Secure your spot today and let us handle all the details steps away on the south side of Charles Schwab Field. Visit blurevents.com to book your group, buy tickets, or learn about sponsorships. That's blurevents.com, your college baseball and football tailgate destination. Blur Events takes care of all the work so you can enjoy the day.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com. Live from the Host Coffee Studio, this is 1620 The Zone. 1620 The Zone. Traffic.
From the Zoom Drain Time-Saving Traffic Center. We have a few accidents to report, starting with one that has the shoulder blocked along I-480 near Martha Street. Then there's another one on 20th at Martha Street, and a third located along Dodge near Saddle Creek Road. So please be cautious if you are in those areas. As always, remember to stay safe and wear your seatbelts. I'm Chris Scott. This time-saving traffic is brought to you by Lanahaw Nurseries.
The spring yard cleanup season is here. Lanahaw produces Omaha's finest mulch. The best colors, best value, and the best quality. There is a difference. Have us deliver or stop by for convenient on-site loading. Rooted in quality, unmatched value. Lanahaw Nurseries, 192nd and Center.
Do you know the common signs of transmission trouble?
Your engine revs before falling into gear. Shifting is rough, or you're leaking reddish-brown fluid.
Knowing the signs could mean repair instead of replace.
That's where we come in. We're certified transmission.
The job done right at the right price.
Email any of our shows anytime into the Equitable Bank inbox. At Equitable, we take banking personally. For me, John at 1620thezone.com. The Equitable Bank inbox from 1620 The Zone.
Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information. Subscription required.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same but is 90% cheaper? And you can get it online? Go to 4hims.com/joy. At Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation and discreet shipping if prescribed. You'll love your results. To start your free online visit, go to 4hims.com/joy. That's FORHIMS.com/JOY.
I thought learning a language would be too much work. Then I discovered Babbel. They make learning fun. J'aime Babel.
Babbel's lessons only take 10 or 15 minutes, quick and easy. And soon you turn and realize, hey, I'm starting to speak another language. How'd that happen?
My friend from Italy said my accent and pronunciation is perfect. It's because Babbel's lessons are designed by language teachers and voiced by real native speakers. Each lesson is like living in another country for 15 minutes.
I love that there's all kinds of ways to learn. Babbel's podcast or games or videos. You can even join live classes with a language teacher.
You learn words and phrases you actually use in real conversations.
In 3 weeks, I was starting to speak in another language. So easy.
If you want to learn a language, there's no faster, easier, better way than Babbel.
Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's BABBEL.com. Babbel.com.
Tickets for less. Best seats, best prices, no per ticket fees. Ticketsforless.com. KOZN Bellevue, Omaha, Council Bluffs. This is 1620 The Zone. Now back to mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
Halftime brought to you by Heart Cigars and Pipes Lounge, just off 680 and 48th Street next to Cubby's. It's Heart Cigars and Pipes.
Better at Caesars yesterday. Creighton 2.5 would have put down $250K. San Diego State 57, Creighton 56. Wasn't on the level of Mattress Mac losing money on Houston. Well, I have very rarely under Calvin Sampson have I seen a Houston team come out in the second half flat like they did the other night.
Ooh. They didn't look good at all.
Didn't see that one coming, but there's a lot in this tournament that we did not see coming, where we have the ages of the four head coaches, 46, 50, 63, and 73.
Mm-hmm.
You have first-time coaches, which is fantastic, that are playing outside of Jim Larinaga, who's 17 years to the date when he took his George Mason team, punched their ticket to the NCAA tournament. How great is that?
By George, the dream is alive.
Yep. He's an HOFer, man.
Yeah.
He is to do that with George Mason and Miami. Think about this. Miami, one time, they shut down basketball for 15 years. They shut her down.
Mm-hmm.
What if you would have told the Miami football fan back in the mid-'80s to that run-up to 2002 that Miami basketball would go to the Final Four before Miami would ever win 12 games in a season again?
I don't think people would buy that.
You would wonder if they were like they had a role in Cocaine Cowboy.
And they used to play at the big arena before they built the on-campus arena, and there was nobody there.
Is there going to be any, any UConn fans remembering the George Mason defeat? Is that going to be any kind of motivation? We talk about chips on shoulders. Come on, use that one, UConn or Jim Larinaga, knowing just the magic ingredients on how to beat UConn, whether it's with George Mason or Miami. UConn is, oof. You could see that coming going to the tournament, but my God, what they did to Gonzaga, that is
nobody was beating them.
Impressive.
They're scary because they're back.
Mm-hmm.
They match their head coach. They're very talented, and they have Gonzaga ran into a buzzsaw. I wonder about Gonzaga. Drew Timme is done. Best college basketball player without a title. Drew Timme. He's going to be in that list.
Yeah, he's up there.
So
for sure.
Timme gone. Strother probably going to go to the NBA. Hunter Salas's minutes were more quality in their 2 games in Vegas, but what's his role next year?
Mm-hmm.
This just feels like that transition period for Mark Few. Unless he goes and he got exposed, they don't have elite guards. When Gonzaga's been great, they've had elite guards. He doesn't have elite guards. This feels like a moment of transition for Gonzaga. Like their fan base is going to have to adjust because next year may be a step back.
Which will be interesting with Mark Few because of his coaching staff. What we know him as one of the better coaches in college basketball right now. But when you go through that, when you have the services of a guy like Drew Timme, so a stabilizer right there, a proven scorer, and now you have to live without something like that and be able to maybe kind of reinvent the way that you're going to go about scoring. And good news is you are in a conference that you can still survive. But what type of team do you look like in March, and how this team maybe introduces you to the next either player or players that are going to, be your offensive production? We know that they recruit very well, but for a guy that, we saw for many years here in Omaha, as you bring up Hunter Salas, it's a guy that's not tearing up the scoring sheet. And as you pointed out a couple weeks ago, he may not be that guy in college basketball that is giving you double figures every night. He may not be averaging double figures. And so if that's a guy that you're not just saying, okay, well, wait till he gets a bigger role, and you look at some of the other guys, maybe some of the other younger players that they have or are recruiting or actively recruiting, what will that look like in Mark Few's system? Because I feel like those transition periods with the blue blood programs, I feel there's always a little bit more confidence that they're going to be fine. Like a Tom Izzo or a Bill Self, those guys are going to figure it out. Are we there with Mark Few? Do we just kind of get, he's done it for so long that we're going to give him the benefit of the doubt? I'm like, yep, they're going to be fine. I couldn't tell you who is going to be the guy, but they're going to be fine because it's Mark Few.
We'll see what the Big 12 is going to do. Maybe now it's the transition to, we talk more to Gonzaga. Here's the thing that Gonzaga down the road needs to avoid: playing UCLA in the tournament. After Gonzaga plays UCLA in the NCAA tournament, they are 0-3, and they have lost by an average of 19 points. Remember after they beat UCLA in the COVID Final Four, they got blown out by Baylor?
Yep.
They beat UCLA on Thursday on the Strother shot at the end, then got blown out by UConn. I would avoid playing UCLA in the future if I was Gonzaga. All right, welcome back in. Brian Munson coming up bottom of the hour. Couple of things here from yesterday. We're pretty solid on how we feel about the call at the end of the game. Don't put an official in that position to make that call. I was going back and looking at the box score. Trammell played 31 minutes and did not have a foul.
That's insane.
You also had a game. Creighton has done a great job all season long. Let me add one quick thing here. And I listened to a lot of pregame stuff yesterday. And I know they have a reputation of let it fly. But at some point, the national people need to give respect that Creighton has become a pretty good defensive program. The way they play basketball, playing on the defensive end. Okay, I want to point that out because there were Seth Greenberg, who was just all over the map yesterday, just driving me nuts. Basically, not acknowledge that Creighton was a pretty good defensive team. Here's another thing Creighton did well all year. They played without fouling.
Yeah.
Okay? Number 2 in the country. San Diego State, 309. Fouls were even 11 apiece. You did not have anybody get to the bonus in that second half. Just a San Diego State did a great job of getting that game played the way they wanted it to play.
The way they had to.
And because of the reputation of being physical, it's, again, I wouldn't want to officiate them. I don't like watching San Diego State. I think it's bad basketball. But they flipped that game. After the first 15 minutes, they flipped that game. So kudos to them. But again, a lot of opportunities there in the second half when you are 6 of 15 on layups.
Yeah.
And some of those were, they were contested layups, but there were others that were just bunnies and you couldn't get it to drop. I wake up this morning and I'm a player and I'm a competitor. I don't think about 1.2. I think of 40 minutes and I go through my head and all the times that I had an opportunity to make a play, grab a loose ball that didn't come my way, that we could have controlled that. You can only control what you can control, and you're good enough that if you do control those things, you should have an opportunity to win, but they missed out on opportunities.
What was really, and for on a day that I know it's probably hard for a lot of people to give San Diego State just the due propers and the full credit, the way that game was trending in the first half with what Creighton was doing offensively and accepting where the shots were going to be and being able to move the ball around and make San Diego State's defense work where it looked like they were maybe going to sort of solve a little bit of that San Diego State defense. The fact that they were able to still drive that game into the 50s is amazing. But if you look at what they've done in the postseason too, it's somewhere in the average of, I think, 13 points less than each one of their opponents' season averages and what they've held them less than. So you had College of Charleston, they hold them to 57. Furman to 52. Alabama, that Alabama team, to 64, and then Creighton to 56.
That was 21 points below Creighton's average.
Yeah. And I think Alabama's was right around there, too, close to 20 points. Furman's was, I think, right around 16 or 17, and the same with College of Charleston. So it's no fluke what that defense is able to do. And the fact that they were able to still do that in the second half after it looked like, up until, again, the last 5 minutes of the first half, that Creighton kind of had it figured out, albeit not the way they typically are firing beyond the arc, but they were still finding shots inside, and they were taking advantage of where the shots were. Just phenomenal defense. And that was the billing going into this thing, and it still played out. A huge, huge difference maker for them.
Jeremy writes into the Equitable Bank inbox, the end of the game was frustrating. Wish we could have seen OT and let them play it out the last 5 minutes. Agree with everything that the consistency of the officiating in the game did not match that foul. In my opinion, if that foul was not called and the game goes to overtime, I don't think there's a 10-minute discussion on the postgame show arguing that it should have been called. Nobody would have batted an eye. I feel that is the end-all argument for or against that call. John writes in, I'm not a basketball fan or a Creighton fan, but for them to be able to pull themselves back up after the 6-game midseason losing streak and make it to the Elite Eight and so close to the Final Four is a great accomplishment.
It is.
And that will dawn on you as the week goes on and you get further away from Saturday of what this year, ended up being. This year was a success. It was a success for Creighton.
Big success.
You wore white in a Sweet 16 game. Playing a 15 seed, I don't care. You wore white. You made it to the Elite Eight. You went somewhere you've never gone before. But what it does is, I hope, and I say July 1 when you figure out, okay, what the Creighton roster is going to look like, is the expectations should always be high and you should embrace them. Because if they return the majority of their core, and I think they could lose a starter, I think, they're going to add a couple of pieces. They're going to be a top 5 team. They'll be preseason top 5. There's no reason to think. If you've got let's say you have a Nemhard, you have a Kalkbrenner, let's say Shireman comes back. Trey and Kaluma, I have question marks about one NBA, one, maybe it's time to go somewhere else. But if you return those three, you get a great shot to be top 5. You will, but you can't. Every year is a different year, in my opinion. You just can't run it back because the mindset is different. These guys grinded from the middle of last summer through this whole year. Once Shireman showed up and they thought, oh, geez, we got some dudes now.
Mm-hmm.
The way you go about your business on a daily thing and that goal that is in front of you, then you got to start that journey again. Some guys aren't built to do it back to back with the grind and the amount of time it takes and energy. Others, this will be the motivation. So next year is different. You're going to have some different faces, different mindset. People are going to want more from you. They're going to want bigger things from you.
Mm-hmm.
So even though there will be a lot to like about next year's team, just be careful. Every year is different on how the journey works. That's the goal of a coaching staff. Okay, we punched all the right buttons and it was player-led, and boy, we liked the result. Now, what is our motivational factor? What buttons do we push? And those players that led, what's their drive to get us to the ultimate goal? There's also the factor that came out over the weekend. Alan Huss is going to High Point down in North Carolina. Place that, by the way, has a lot of money. They spend a lot of money on athletics. He's a key right-hand man to Mac. There's a lot of responsibility that's given him. By the way, Mac's coaching tree just continues to expand.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Is what do you do with that opening? Do you promote Ryan Miller? Do you find, because I think there would be a lot of interest to come work with Mac. Do you open that job and you're for the number 1 chair? So that also factors in. So the next, I would say, month, you go to the Final Four next week. There'll be a lot of people handing Mac their resumes, or and he'll be like, "No, you know what? That isn't how it works." I already have my eye on somebody. And then that NBA early entry period that starts. So the next month will be kind of the form of what's next for Creighton. But I say July 1 before you really know what you have, and then it's go time to prepare for the next season, which is a completely different journey.
And the journey part is something you mentioned, Alan Huss, but also think about the Big East landscape too. As we now introduce new coaches and new roles, whether it's a familiar face with a different program at Georgetown, or welcome back Rick Pitino. I'm not saying that these guys are all of a sudden going to move their way to the top. Georgetown's obviously got some work to do, as does St. John's, but you also now have some new players into the Big East too, and some programs that are going to make it their point, especially a Rick Pitino St. John's team that's going to try to make it their point to show up fast. And, that the Big East, I think overall, what they have between now and as we get to July 1st is going to look very interesting. So that's all part of the journey. That's all part of sort of that variable change that even if Creighton were somehow better next year, what is just the ultimate gut punch yesterday is there is no guarantee you're back in that game a year from now, even if you are better, even if you have better percentages, a better win-loss record. You don't have that 6-game losing streak, whatever the case is.
It's the luck.
What
if there are injuries? What if you get the wrong matchup?
Absolutely. It's the tournament, man. Things happen.
All right, a couple of emails here to the Equitable Bank inbox, and then we're going to get to Brian Munson here a little bit. I'm glad we didn't put up a poll question about Dylan Raiola coming to Nebraska. Nobody's like, no, he didn't come to Nebraska. I just asked, if you don't think he's coming to Nebraska, why? There are a lot of people that are dreaming big.
Yeah.
And I mean, again, he had a great weekend.
Yeah, you quoted that.
Well, he goes everywhere, and
yeah,
they always say the same thing. Okay, a couple of things here. This is from Brian. So there are 37 of 20 million brackets on ESPN that has predicted the Final Four. Brian says on ESPN you can create something like 50 brackets and it costs no money.
True.
The people who predicted this Final Four probably have dozens of brackets. I don't think any of them was their lone bracket, and they are betting the farm on low stakes, lots of room for mistakes. I like that line.
I would
that
agree.
should put that on a T-shirt. Low stakes, lots of room for mistakes, and make sure that we credit Brian. Channel 6 Mike chimes in. I think I saw a graphic. Creighton said NCAA tournament record free throw percentage.
Yeah, at 91.
You know who also shoots free throws really well? Miami.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Automatic down the stretch.
It's funny that Mike brings that up because when they flashed that graphic, I was thinking to myself, kind of thinking back to that as the game was getting really ugly. That might be as uncomfortable as this game has to be for Creighton right now and the amount of shots they're missing. If they can get themselves to the free throw line, and this kind of goes back to what you were talking about with Trey, in moments instead of finishing through, you're getting yourself to the free throw line. My gosh, Creighton, they just were not missing. And that, at some point, you think in a game that's so back and forth, so close, maybe that's the difference.
All right, TL3. I think you guys are hitting it on the head this morning. If you listen to more of John's call, one of the reasons he was so reserved is he wanted to make sure San Diego State got their due and they deserved the W. SDSU.
Got something on mine.
Brookings compared to San Diego.
Warm San Diego versus.
I mean, some would consider Brookings the San Diego of South Dakota, though. There's sarcasm there.
No one does.
There's a bit of sarcasm.
There's a reason why teams stay in Sioux Falls and not in Brookings. So it's one of the cases where two things can be true at the same time. I cannot like the call, but I sure as hell know they didn't lose it because of it. It was won by San Diego State on the boards and the defensive effort in the second half. Does it suck? Absolutely. But I also know Creighton didn't play their A game in the second half either. Thanks, TL3.
Mm-hmm.
See, I'm a competitor. I didn't sleep when I got back because I'm going, God, 6 minutes into the game, I had a shot to, get us to 12, 14, second half. Yeah, we didn't match San Diego State's intensity right away. But, boy, we bounced back and we had opportunities. And we let somebody else control the game.
It reminds me what you're saying is, as a fan, long time ago, good memory for you. Ray Allen hits that shot in 2013 against the Spurs in the finals. Everyone's like, oh, Ray Allen, but he's the reason why we lost the game. It wasn't one shot. It was missing a couple of free throws that led to that. It was not getting a rebound. There's all these other things that happen that you leave it in position for that to happen. You say 6 of 15, make 3 of those, different ball game. You get ahead, like you're saying, free throws. If you're in a position to be shooting them, you win.
Yeah,
that's the stuff that makes it hard to sleep.
There was a moment of that game that kind of brought me back. It's funny, as we're talking Creighton, Nebraska at one point, or at least someone brought that up. You guys remember the 2014-15 season where Nebraska came off of that NCAA tournament run? Creighton lost everybody, and Nebraska was supposed to run them out of the gym. It was at Pinnacle Bank Arena, and Nebraska was a heavy favorite in that one. And I just remember, Taryn Petaway putting up all these weird shots in the first half, and Nebraska would get out to like a 9-point lead, but could never get it into double digits. Never. And you're thinking, if they just get it to double digits, Creighton did not have the firepower to really maybe make that comeback. But you just felt like the fact that they could never even get it to 10, that could hurt them later on. Creighton ends up beating Nebraska in that game. Thinking about that, when Creighton gets out of that 7-point lead, you're thinking, okay, if they can just get this thing into a period, especially in the second half, where San Diego State is forced to play some offense, they can't just rely on their defense. So they got to knock down some shots, which they couldn't. Boy, this thing is probably over. Creighton could never do it, though.
Brian Munson's coming up next. We'll shift here. We'll talk a little football on the weekend. We'll get back to basketball next hour. Jacob Bigelow and Joel Lorenzi will stop by, but a monster recruiting weekend for Nebraska. There may be one player in. Probably not the one that everybody is expecting, but B. Muntz will join us next. It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone. All right, now that the tournament is down to just 4 teams remaining, there is no better place to get in on all the action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. That's because right now FanDuel is giving new customers a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's up to $1,000 back in bonus bets. If your first bet doesn't win, just go to FanDuel.com/zone and sign up today. And Nick, you can claim your first no-sweat first bet.
Yep, and UConn is the betting favorite to cut down the nets. And if you want to get in on maybe that Florida Atlantic San Diego State game, it's a lot to see this weekend. You can wager on everything from the money line to point spreads to which team will be cutting down the nets. All on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. So don't miss your shot at a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Just go to FanDuel.com/zone to sign up. Make every moment more with FanDuel. 21 plus and present in Iowa. First online real money wager only. $10 deposit required. Refund issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-BETS-OFF.
Gary Sharp, Nick Handley, and Jimmy Chavez. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Weekdays 6 to 10. On 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com. Mornings on 1620 The Zone is brought to you by MD West One Orthopedics, Neurosurgery, and Spine. Previously on Unsportsmanlike Conduct.
I think a lot of the people that are looking at a deep run, they're looking at the numbers, they're looking at the analytics, and a lot of the folks who are a little more skeptical are going, yeah, but this is an inconsistent team.
That's where I'm at.
This is not a foreign concept. Teams that are at this spot in the season tend not to always be the best in terms of being able to string together great performances on a regular basis.
Unsportsmanlike Conduct with John Bishop and Josh Peterson. Weekdays 2 to 6 on 1620 The Zone. Your Omaha area forecast from the Godfather's Pizza Weather Center and KETV News Watch 7 on 1620 The Zone.
After a cold start this morning, we'll see increasing clouds with chilly temperatures continuing into your afternoon. High today in Omaha near 42 degrees with northerly winds between 5 to 10 miles an hour. Cold again here tonight, staying mostly cloudy with some clearing skies late, low near 25. I'm meteorologist Caitlin Harvey with KETV News Watch 7.
1620 The Zone. Traffic.
From the Zoom Drain Time-Saving Traffic Center. We have one accident to report near 84th and Harrison Street, so please be cautious if you are in that area. Along Highway 370, be prepared for a minor delay from 60th to 42nd. And along Industrial Road, things have slowed down quite a bit from 144th to 138th. As always, remember to stay safe and wear your seatbelts. I'm Chris Scott. This time-saving traffic was brought to you by IBEW Local 22.
Does great pay, fully funded medical benefits, and a solid retirement sound good to you? IBEW has immediate openings for residential electricians. Invest in yourself with IBEW Local 22. Call John at 402-973-0613.
Can I take your order?
Can I get a small chicken sandwich meal?
Sorry, we only sell jumbo meals. Same size for everyone.
Sometimes one size fits all isn't right for you. Same goes for your mobile plan. At Cox Mobile, get what you actually need and start saving with the right data plan. If your needs change, switch between plans at any time. Now that's something different.
Thanks. I think I'll go get something different.
Cox Mobile. We're different because you're different. Visit cox.com/mobile to learn more. Postpaid Cox internet required. Other restrictions apply.
Creighton coverage on the Zone is presented by Berry Law. At Berry Law, we fight alongside those who choose to fight back. Call Berry Law at 402-999-7777 or visit BerryLawFirm.com. At Berry Law, we're in it to win it.
Hey, everybody, it's Michael Severe for Ted and Wally's, 2 locations in the Old Market and, of course, in Benson as well. You know what goes great with college basketball and the College Basketball National Championship? Ice cream, and great ice cream from Ted and Wally's. It's the perfect treat. Seasonal flavors as well. Over 3,000 flavors. You can check out all the flavors on social media every single day. It's Ted and Wally's, 2 locations in Benson and, of course, in the Old Market as well. Enjoy your basketball and your ice cream from Ted and Wally's.
Lanahaw Nurseries has been your dependable full-service source for locally grown trees, plants, and landscape materials. Rooted in tradition, our products and services are consistently ranked best of Omaha in quality and value. From design to install, our experts are here to help bring your landscape vision to life. Start your next project this weekend. Visit us at 192nd and Center. Lanahaw Nurseries, your homegrown headquarters since 1974.
It's time to get registered for this year's annual Clausen Leahy Maverick Run on April 22nd at Baxter Arena. This race has something for every type of runner with a 1-mile kids race, a 5K walk, and a 5K or 10K run. Plus, in conjunction with the kids race, there's a kids zone with a variety of activities inside Baxter Arena. The event starts at 8:30 a.m. on April 22nd. Go to omavs.com/Maverick Run to find out more information and to get registered. It's the Maverick Run at Baxter Arena, April 22nd. See you there.
PACE, Police Athletics for Community Engagement Organization, is dedicated to preventing at-risk and disadvantaged inner-city children from becoming involved in street gangs, crime, drug use, and victimization. PACE provides an opportunity to develop discipline, self-esteem, and positive moral values through wholesome competition and free participation in soccer, baseball, CrossFit, and flag football. To help PACE and local families make sure kids have access to safe and fun spring and summer activities, please go to paceomaha.org to support the PACE mission. Thank you.
Equitable Bank.
We take banking personally. EquitableOnline.com.
And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
This is a comeback because I'm talking to Brian Munson from On3. Good morning, my friend. How are you? It's been a
long
while.
time no talk, brother. I love getting your text message last week. Of course, I'd come on and talk to you, buddy.
Yeah. Well, I know you were busy, so Nick and I and Jimmy all appreciate it because it was a heck of a weekend. Put into context how big of a weekend it was for a unofficial springtime weekend that Nebraska was able to assemble.
I in 24 years, man, in 24 years of covering recruiting since November of 1999, I cannot compare this weekend to any other weekend that Nebraska has hosted unofficial visitors or official visitors for that matter. It is that huge when you start talking about number one quarterback, number one offensive tackle, number one defensive lineman, several other number one players of their respective states all taking a visit to Nebraska this weekend. And not only just like getting past the quality and the quantity of the players, but, diving into touching base with those guys really started on Thursday night, to be all, honest, with a couple of the early recruiting spotlights we had coming up on Friday. And really touching base with, a couple guys on Friday, running stories. I think I talked to 20 kids, basically since Friday through yesterday. I ran 16. I think I've got 3 left to come, and I've been texting with Buford and Riddell and Carter Nelson, and I'm trying to get those guys today. I think that the overall glowing, every report was glowing. There were a couple knocks here and there about maybe practice not being crisp enough, but Matt Rule and his staff are doing a splendid job of pulling these weekends together. Number one, number two, they're not outside of the span of control. They understand that, and number three, these guys all had a great time. There were so many guys that I didn't expect much, of the visit or for them to say they were coming back, but they all said they're coming back. Brandon Baker, Nathaniel Frazier, Jared Smith, excuse me. They're all coming back, and obviously Dylan Raiola, he'll be there. He'll be there for the spring game as well. And even like a Willis McGahee IV, who was there on Monday, said he's coming back for spring game too. He was blown away.
So let me, and of course we'll ask about Dylan, but I'm noticing something. So this is a very organized recruiting staff with a head coach that likes being here, likes talking about Nebraska, likes recruiting, likes young people, that knows that if you are to keep your head above water in the new Big Ten, you got to recruit your butt off. But are you sensing the philosophy? And I think it's a little bit different. And this isn't a knock on previous staffs, but we always said, man, when they're recruiting, they're selling Scott Frost. They're selling his offense. Does it appear to you that Matt Rule is selling Nebraska over anything else?
Totally. Absolutely. 100%. The staff is I think the way you portrayed that is completely and totally accurate. And I think that what you do is you get a different lens, you get a different perspective, and you look at Nebraska as the destination, not the offense, not the head coach. You put the coaching staff in a position where they're the vehicle. They're the directors of leading basically the horses to water, through their visit weekend. And those guys come to their own conclusions. They see this thing. They know that, that Matt Rule's out there sticking his nose in every position group on Saturday morning when they're having practice, and they know about the facilities, but it's not like, those selling points are things that they are coming across along the way, basically organically. It's an organic kind of process now where they're coming to these conclusions themselves. And I think that's been a huge difference. And I don't necessarily, it's not a knock on the previous staff. I think it's a different approach. I think it's something that I think that a lot of coaches, even like Isaiah Mosey's dad, who's the head coach at Lee Summit North, who is very well aware of Scott Frost and what his staff was doing there at Nebraska. He even noted the differences and the changes, and he said, look, for whatever reasons the previous staff didn't have success, this staff is arranged organizationally different. They come at you differently, and it can only be a positive. And those are some big words, man, from a guy that's seen that stuff up close for the last 3 years and really worked closely with the previous staff. Those are big words.
Brian, it was kind of funny. I was hearing the baseball game. I know got a lot of attention as far as the stop that the recruits made. I know Alex Gordon even kind of joked and said maybe he shouldn't be thrown out the first pitch. Maybe one of those guys should be. As far as the impact of these guys being followed around like they're rock stars at either the baseball game or just in the various stops, you had a chance, as you mentioned, to talk to some of them. From an impact standpoint, I know a lot of them said it's different. It's something like they've never seen. How impactful do you think that can ultimately be on top of what Matt Rule is selling?
Incredibly. These guys are going. Just look at like where Jacob and Gerard Smith were leading up to Nebraska. They were in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and several of the guys that were in California have been off multiple trips to Eugene and to go see USC and the guys I caught up with in Utah last night or yesterday, they were off to see Miami today, and they were heading out on a West Coast tour that was going to take them to UCLA, USC, Oregon State, Arizona, Oregon. These guys are taking a ton of visits, and for Nebraska to stand up and to get this kind of wow factor, thoughts coming back out of the visits, it's huge. It lets you know that Nebraska now is not only just on a level playing field with some of these institutions that they have to compete against to even become relevant on the national football landscape out there, but they now are not only competing, they're leading, and that's essentially what puts Nebraska back into that late 80s, early 90s mindset where you were pushing the edge of nutrition, strength and conditioning, facilities, and all the upgrades and stuff like that. Nebraska is finally getting back, I think, to that area. They just need that success to kind of go along with it on the football field, and then essentially you got it. You're putting together basically what Nebraska hopes, but those pieces are at least in place. Now it's just getting the right guys and putting the team together and getting some wins.
Brian Munson from On3 joining us. You want to speculate here? Keith Williams does the whole firework emoji. Well, not emoji. It's the GIF.
The GIF.
Yeah. So we think maybe one is in. Would you like to speculate who they get first out of this weekend?
Yeah, actually, that's so strange you brought that up because last night I speculated a little bit. I called Gibson Pyle back, nothing. Didn't hear back from Ian Flint. Could it be him? Possibly. Then I thought maybe it was another Texas kid, Mario Buford. And I touched base with Buford last night at 10 o'clock when he was still coming back from the airport. And he said it wasn't him. I don't know if you got a guy.
Do you really just ask them just out of the blue, hey, did you commit?
I did.
And it's like, no, wasn't me.
I essentially asked him and said, hey, look, I'm tracking something down that typically indicates that somebody is committed. Logic would tell me, potentially it's you. Did you happen to make a commitment? And sometimes those guys will tell you no because they're waiting on edits or they're waiting on the right time that they have their windows. But I think ultimately, maybe got a little bit of a break in the protocol. I do think there's going to be multiple guys that'll end up being Cornhuskers as part of this weekend. I'm just not sure anybody really is in the class as of yet.
Brian, does anybody say, like, when you ask if it's them and they say no, do they follow up with, hey, but if you find out, will you let me know?
Nobody did last night. But I tell you what, that hits on such a great point, though. There is so much interest across these guys to the other visitors, guys that are interested in seeing what Dylan Raiola is going to do.
Right.
Gibson Pyle said, I want to know what Grant Bricks and Gage Ginther are going to do. And you just get that kind of, once you build that weekend and you get those guys together and they become friends and they become colleagues and they're going to keep track of each other's processes and they want to visit these places together because they're building chemistry already. So yeah, I certainly would say that that's happened before. Like where I've tried to track it down, they said, hey, something happens, man. He's committed, but like that's definitely happened.
So I've heard you plenty with Connor. And of course, every message board or every chat that you do on On3, any radio appearance, Dylan Raiola's name came up. So let's talk about him. Because if I didn't know any better months, I would think he's already part of Nebraska's football program. He's at practice on his visit on Saturday, and he's with the quarterbacks on the field with Satterfield as they're running plays. And we see the video that was released of Harburg running the orbit option. And in the background, Dylan Raiola is blurred out because they have to. The night before, he's with other 24 recruits, and they're at the baseball game. And you would think that they're just student athletes coming to support fellow student athletes. Trev takes a picture with Dad. His 51 is up at the football facility in Lincoln. I mean, where are we with this? Because, I mean, again, if I was an outsider and I didn't know any better, I would think that he's already in.
Yeah, I can definitely understand where that comes from, and it's certainly a very logical way of kind of doing the bullying and just saying left to right. When you put this together, this equals that, and this is definitely like one of those moments, one of those guys where it certainly seems that way, but I don't feel like it's quite there. I think Dylan and his dad realized that they can't choose another school and have his son be treated the way that he could get treated at Nebraska, number one. Number two, I think that obviously there is a bit of a legacy thing that's there. I don't know how relevant it is anymore, to guys and stuff like that. But I think it still plays in there, obviously, that, those guys would put some of their decision around it. But, the way that Nebraska, I think the other telling part that you didn't mention that you could have just put on top, it would have been the cherry on top of the sundae that you just laid out. Nebraska isn't talking to any other 2024 recruits when it comes to playing quarterback position. I mean, Daniel Kaelin came off the board. There was no panic. There was essentially nothing that Nebraska did as far as a backup plan to, having somebody warmed up in case Dylan decides to go someplace else. There was nothing like that. So I do think things look very, very good there. And I'll tell you this, Dylan Raiola was still in town on Saturday night at a very public social scene, seen around town. So I think that there's, you're going to get it back again in 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And you saw him at the end of February. You're going to host him 3 times in 2 months. I know that the way that this thing drags out, into June doesn't make anybody more comfortable, but I think Nebraska fans should be feeling pretty good about this one.
Well, and it's interesting too, Brian, because it feels like this is a guy that he's not an in-state guy, although when he makes a presence on campus, there's sort of this in-state feel. And I know a lot of it has to do with the family ties, but also the amount of times that he's been here. It almost seems like he's kind of the ringleader with the rest of the recruits, especially this weekend. And I'm not trying to get inside the kid's head, but I feel like there is sort of a comfort level with that. And what 17, 18-year-old kid doesn't love having that type of attention where you're treated like a rock star? But I also feel like, in a way, it's funny how his decision could impact a lot of other decisions, but it seems like he is sort of the ringleader when it comes to Lincoln on these visits. Would you agree, especially this last weekend?
I totally agree, and I don't think people really understand what I'm trying to say when I say look at Nebraska's recruiting board now, pre-Dylan Raiola commitment, and look at it post. If he does commit, things are going to change. Things are going to look, shinier, brighter to Baker and Frazier and other guys, but you're going to see other players pop up out of nowhere that want to go take a look at Nebraska. This kind of glosses over everything about this great recruiting weekend, but there are going to be several other players that are going to want to understand more about Nebraska because Dylan Raiola chooses Nebraska. That board is going to get another influx of players to look at them. It's going to put some Nebraska in a place where they can be a little bit more selective. I think that really makes things very, very interesting as you kind of look at things down the line. But yeah, I do believe that there's kind of a Pied Piper come along effect here that's going to come along with Dylan Raiola, definitely, if he chooses Nebraska.
Hey, fantastic stuff, Muntz. Then Matt Rule and his staff are keeping you busy. You're back in action again. I love it.
I tell you what, you and I spoke for years, and I think you and I had to do the best we could with the content that we had. Yeah. This group is going about things very, very differently. So I'm very excited about being busy on the weekends once again and covering all these things that they're doing because they're doing a great job.
That's good. Always great to talk with you, and always great to have you here on The Zone with Connor as well.
Yep, we'll talk to you guys again soon.
That's Brian Munson from On 3. Huge weekend. I think Ian Flint is the guy. I'm put on the board as a tight end commit. That's who I think is their
From Texas.
Yep, that they are referencing.
You say you put it on the board. I thought you were about to
Put
drop
it
a
on
yes
the
in there.
board. Yes.
I don't know. I mean,
well, you're not putting that GIF out yesterday if there's not at least something.
No.
So,
who's getting more attention in the spring, Dylan Raiola or Harburg?
That's a good
Do
question.
you think that Matt Rule has legally adopted Henrik Harburg?
Well, like I told you before, I guarantee the content that goes out when those videos, Rule at least sees some of it and has to say, "Yep, cool, go ahead."
We've talked about everything is deliberate.
Yeah,
Everything
it
is by
is.
design.
And it gets and the Rule makes the last call. Seeing Heinrich Harburg on the video and just the nice little scamper for a touchdown, like
Either Harburg
we're in the Heinrich Harburg business all of a
Harburg's
sudden.
going to be the breakthrough star out of the quarterback room, or he's going to have some great tape for the portal.
Yeah. And the amount of conversations too. How many times would you actually put that on a highlight reel, and how many times a coach or coaching staff talks about you? But you could also use those press conferences on top of some of the video snippets that we're seeing in the spring practice.
Let's just hope that clip that was shared from Saturday's practice in full pads, that when they get to the fault, they do run the orbit option.
Mm-hmm.
Nebraska defensively did not defend that really well. No. All right, 54 past the hour. The next hour will include more on basketball. Jacob Bigelow will stop by. Joel Lorenzi will stop by as the season around here is now over. Off to the Final Four for the men. For the women, it'll be set tonight. South Carolina will look to punch their ticket. Virginia Tech and Ohio State will be interesting. Ohio State just against UConn.
Yeah.
Winner gets mulky.
The UConn will be back. I mean, look at Paige. We're going to have Paige Beckers and Caitlin Clark next year in women's college basketball. So UConn isn't going anywhere. They're still UConn as long as Gino is running the show.
Yeah.
But it does kind of hit you when they have a streak like they had broken when they lost to Ohio State. They haven't won a title since 16.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't seem like that.
No.
Wow. Yeah.
Seems like just a few years ago that Connecticut won.
It's like you just take for granted, though, they're going to be in the Final Four. It's kind of like when Alabama doesn't make the college football playoff. Everyone's like, oh, here's the opening. They're on the decline now. I think, I don't know. I would assume not many people are saying that about UConn right now that they didn't make the Final Four. But, yeah, it's kind of crazy to think that with that streak that, the last national title is 2016.
Well, randomness of the NCAA tournament. Single elimination. Men's side, not necessarily the best team for the regular season wins. I mean, look at the number one overall seed.
Mm-hmm.
That's the beauty of the tournament.
Well, the show preceding us, LeVar Arrington was complaining this is why they need to expand the tournament. I was like, okay, that is ridiculous. No.
It's the exact opposite.
No.
Just because you didn't get
Keep it at
your
68.
top teams in there.
Were you saying that last year when we had an incredible Final Four?
Exactly.
Right. We have the 2011 Final Four this year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What if we get some good games?
Which can be entertaining, but you maybe drive down your overall expectation level just a little bit, so it can still be entertaining. There's just
it's nice to see new teams.
It is.
There.
Yes.
It absolutely is.
And if you make it down there, you can get some tickets for cheap, like you said.
Yeah. Business owners, I mean, I know Houston is a large city, but in terms of the game, if you're a secondary market, you were hoping that team in blue would win because honestly, I think there would have been at least 20,000 Creighton fans would have been at NRG Stadium. All right, quick break. Come back. Again, Jacob and Joel in the last hour of Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone. All right, a place that there's a lot of blue, there's a lot of red, there's a lot of black. All three Division I programs, their fan bases. They go to Woodhouse Buick GMC to shop for a vehicle, the perfect car, truck, or SUV that you want and need. That also meets your financial needs. New or pre-owned, you can find it in one location, 119th and I, under one roof, indoors. Don't have to worry about the elements outside. And they've got plenty of space so you don't feel like you're cramped when you're looking because you hear inside and you're like, on top of each other? No. Great inventory. They've updated over the weekend. Plus, you can see their updated inventory online before you head to 119th and I. Do that at WoodhouseBuickGMC.com, where you can do everything in person. You can do online as well. Woodhouse Buick GMC, 119th and I, or online at WoodhouseBuickGMC.com. GMC, we are professional grade.
More with Gary and Nick after this on 1620 The Zone. Big names, big games. We've got them all. 1620 The Zone.
Guys, let's face it, there is a time when you just need to get out of the house, to have your own place, to be with the guys, or just a quiet, relaxing place for yourself. Well, Hearth Cigars and Pipes Lounge hears you loud and clear. Settle in. Escape to Hearth Cigars and Pipes Lounge for an incredible selection plus premium cocktails, a knowledgeable, friendly staff, state-of-the-art humidor, and incredible lounge. Hearth Cigars and Pipes Lounge, just off I-680 at 48th Street next to Covey's.
Summer is almost here, and with 31 days in March, you can save $31 every month at Genesis Health Clubs. Ends Friday and won't extend. If you don't get started on your fitness goals today, then when? Tomorrow? Next week? Next month? Next year? Life's too short for that. Hi, I'm Rodney Stephen with Genesis Health Clubs, here all month giving you 31 reasons to get started toward your summer fitness goals now. Reason number 26, exercise increases your ability to adapt to cold environments. Reason number 27, exercise maintains or improves joint flexibility. Reason number 28, exercise makes your heart more efficient. Reason number 29, exercise improves your mood. Reason number 30, exercise helps to increase your overall health awareness. Reason number 31, exercise improves your overall quality of life. 31 reasons to get started today and $31 to save every month when you get started at Genesis Health Clubs. Ends Friday and won't extend. There is no tomorrow for your health. Go to genesishealthclubs.com today to get started.
Time for an NCAA tournament schedule update. The road to the men's Final Four now heads to the home stretch. The teams are set, and a championship trophy awaits the school that can win just 2 more games. From Houston, Saturday's national semifinals is up next, and all 4 teams are looking to hang around for a shot at the title. To make sure you don't miss any of the excitement, listen to Westwood One's exclusive coverage of the NCAA Final Four right here.
It's not easy being the one everyone counts on to keep your operation running, no matter the weather or supply chain hiccup. But we get you, Raymond in Buffalo, Maria in Miami, and Jules in Troy, taking control of everything that's under your control. At Grainger, we're here for you with high-quality supplies for every industry, plus real-time product availability and access to experts ready to help. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hi, this is Doug Nodgard with Equitable Bank. Great service never goes out of style. When the digital age dawned, many said computers would be able to handle many of the interactions that used to take a person. Boy, were they wrong. How many times have you called your bank and gotten a recording to press 1 or 2? Not at Equitable. Not only does Equitable answer your call in the first ring, it's answered by a human being. That's because Equitable Bank values its customers. Equitable Bank, we take banking personally. Member FDIC.
You can find pizza anywhere. But when you want pizza pie piled high with more toppings, that's when you come to my place, Godfather's Pizza. For a limited time, get your hands on 2 of my large 1-topping pizzas. Pick pepperoni, beef, black olives, you choose. All this food for only $29. Feed your whole mob without breaking the bank. Hey, it's an offer you can't refuse. Godfather's Pizza. Do it.
Dust. It's in the living room, the bedroom, and the bathroom. It's also in your lungs. Let's fix that, shall we? Duct Defense Midwest offers a comprehensive system that cleans, disinfects, filters, and purifies the air. They'll make your home healthier and improve the life of your HVAC system. So improve the health of your home and everyone in it. Go to cleanairradio.com right now for a special air duct cleaning offer for Zone listeners. cleanairradio.com.
Tired of having a website that doesn't reflect the quality of your brand? At JM Online, we specialize in custom websites for unique business needs. Your website should be more than just a digital billboard. It should be a powerful tool that grows your business. Awarded Omaha's best web developers in 2023, we're dedicated to local business success. So if you're ready to take your website to the next level, go to jmonline.com and request a call.
Attention sales professionals. NRG Media is looking for an accomplished business-to-business salesperson who wants to take their success and skills to a new level. Is this you? Our account executives work with local businesses to create marketing plans to help them get more customers. On air, digital, on-site, audio, video, it's all part of what you could sell. A sales career with NRG lets you make a real difference. Get more info and apply online at nrgmedia.com. NRG Media is an equal opportunity employer.
And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
All right, this is Chris's email in the Equitable Bank inbox. And this kind of sums up, I think, people as we have gone further and further and deeper into the process and more visits to Lincoln. There's some sentiment that is shared like Chris. At this point, this one and only thing that makes me think he might actually be locked in for Nebraska is 100% because I can't believe his dad would want Nebraska to take the black eye they would take by not getting him at this point. I want to believe that Dominic would have just squashed any hope a long time ago if it wasn't almost a done deal, because it hurts Nebraska way more than anyone else if he doesn't choose Nebraska. If he goes to Georgia or USC, they will just get a different 5-star. And Dave on Twitter, you know, he brought up a point. You really can't like force the issue if you're Nebraska. And you can't say, hey, you know, we know that we'll probably have to go a portal quarterback and this Harburg guy we like, and we'll know we'll get Jeff Sims for another year. But can you help us here?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. When this is all said and done, the story behind the story will be fascinating to see how this all played out. But I asked Muntz, if you didn't know and you didn't know he was a recruit, you would actually think he is a student athlete at Nebraska. Yeah. And how many other recruits have you ever been able to really say that? And does he do the same thing when he goes to Georgia and USC?
That's what I'm curious about too, is what is his presence at those places? Because that was one of the reasons I asked Brian about that. Everywhere the group went, he seemed like the ringleader. And he seemed like, you would think this guy is also an in-state guy because he's so familiar with everything about Haymarket Park and downtown Lincoln and Haymarket and all that. You know, everything about it just screams like, well, this guy's either, kind of to your point, has been here. He's a current student athlete and he's their tour guide, or he is the guy that is already committed and is trying to, you know, help other guys see what he's seeing. It's very fascinating. And I would agree. I can't remember any recruit like that has had sort of that impact, but also everyone just gravitates to him. I mean, I would be real curious to see what it's like at USC.
So he's like,
what it's like at Georgia. Is it the same thing at those places too?
He keeps coming back and he'll be here for the spring game. And maybe he'll bring Ryan Wingo with him. Good looking prospect.
He was here for what? Just Saturday? Yeah.
I mean, they had the number one quarterback, number one wide receiver, number one offensive tackle.
Yeah.
That'd be a nice little
pretty good haul
to reel in. And you haven't even coached a game yet.
Yeah, I know it.
You've not coached a game that you keep score as the Nebraska head coach. That's a hell of a sales job.
And
that's the biggest point right there.
And that should be, no matter what happens with any of these decisions. The fact that is happening right now without one game, that's something to get excited about. 100%.
Because what happens when they start playing and then start winning something?
Well, then you are, okay, this might pop sooner than later because your trajectory has a lot of momentum. And that facility, boys,
also nice.
That facility is pretty damn nice. That's going to be a jewel on that side of the football stadium. All right, Jacob Bigelow, who many consider, even his parents, a jewel. He'll join us next on Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley returns in minutes on 1620 The Zone. Live from the Host Coffee Studio, this is 1620 The Zone. 1620 The Zone. Traffic.
From the Zoom Drain Time-Saving Traffic Center. We have one accident to report near 84th and Harrison Street, so please be cautious if you are in that area. Along Highway 370, be prepared for a minor delay from 60th to 42nd. And along Industrial Road, things have slowed down quite a bit from 144th to 138th. As always, remember to stay safe and wear your seatbelts. I'm Chris Scott. This time-saving traffic is brought to you by Saul's Jewelry and Loan.
What does Saul's Loan on? Almost everything, like jewelry, gold chains, bracelets, earrings, wedding rings, and high-end watches, guns, electronics, $10 to $50,000, super fast and easy with no credit check. Saul's Loans on almost everything.
Shop Sid Dillon Chevrolet, where we sell more Chevys than anyone in Nebraska. Visit us in Blair, Crete, Fremont, or Wahoo, or at SidDillonChevy.com. Chevy, find new roads.
You are what drives us, Sid Dillon.
Email unsportsmanlike conduct on the Equitable Bank Zone Inbox with whatever is on your mind, from your hot takes to what you think is one. The Zone Inbox is brought to you by Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. We want to hear from you on the Equitable Bank Zone Inbox.
Peerless Energy Systems is Nebraska and Iowa's locally owned and operated authorized solar air compressor distributor. Peerless Energy Systems provides products and solutions for compressed air systems, helping companies in manufacturing, food processing, transportation, auto body repair, car dealers, and more. Driving industry efficiency through service, support, and relationships, let Peerless Energy Systems help you increase efficiency with your compressed air systems today. PeerlessEnergy.com.
Hey, baseball fans, join the Blur Tailgate at Hilton Omaha this June for our 11th annual hospitality event during the College Baseball Championship Series. Book an experience for your clients or employees with an inclusive bar, buffet, TVs, music, and tailgate games. Secure your spot today and let us handle all the details steps away on the south side of Charles Schwab Field. Visit blurevents.com to book your group, buy tickets, or learn about sponsorships. That's blurevents.com, your college baseball and football tailgate destination. Blur Events takes care of all the work so you can enjoy the day.
The spring yard cleanup season is here. Lenaha produces Omaha's finest mulch, the best colors, best value, and the best quality. There is a difference. Have us deliver or stop by for convenient on-site loading. Rooted in quality, unmatched value. Lenaha Nurseries, 192nd and Center.
Tickets for less. Best seats, best prices, no per-ticket fees. Ticketsforless.com. KOZN Bellevue, Omaha, Council Bluffs. This is 1620 The Zone. And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
All right, last hour on a Monday. Thanks, everybody, for joining us the morning after the Creighton-San Diego State game yesterday in Kentucky and the Final Four being set. We welcome in Jacob Bigelow from Huskers Illustrated, podcaster, celebrity, basketball man. Good morning.
Top of the morning, gentlemen. How's it going?
Good. Do we love or hate or have mixed feelings on the four teams that will be in Houston next weekend?
Mixed feelings, but at the same time, I probably lean more toward love, honestly, because, like, I mean, we had the all blue blood Final Four last year. Duke Carolina in the semifinal, KU Carolina for the title, and this is kind of polar opposite Final Four of that. But at the same time, you've got the ACC regular season champion who was a 5 seed due to the conference being down, a team with 30 plus wins in Florida Atlantic that has proven that they belong. UConn, who is undefeated against teams that aren't from the Big East Conference still, which is incredible. And then San Diego State is kind of the odd team of the bunch, but I mean they've shown that defense travels, and that it can take you places even when your offense doesn't look so good. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be interesting.
Would you watching yesterday's Creighton San Diego State game too? There's so many different layers of it. We've talked about the final minute. We'll get your thoughts on that too. But you watch basketball a lot. You see teams that you mentioned, San Diego State, and defensively how they are. The fact that they're 9-1 in games determined by 5 points or less. Watching the final 10 minutes of this game, was there any moment that you felt like they maybe seemed out of sorts, or did you feel like they were finally happy that they kind of had that game where they wanted it as far as what they were able to dictate defensively?
That's tough to say because I felt the entire time because I think Creighton's largest lead at one point was like 7.
Yeah.
And I think that as long as San Diego State was within single digits, that I felt like that's where they wanted the game to be, just based on how they play and their point of attack. And I I mean, that entire game, both teams seemed out of sorts, especially offensively. I mean, there were instances where, even I was, saying to the TV, like, go to the rim. What are you doing? Like, just wondering, some of the shot selection on both ends, questionable. It was definitely not what I'd call an aesthetically pleasing basketball game, but I think it definitely more so played into San Diego State's hands throughout than it did into Creighton.
Jacob Bigelow joining us. Let's drop in some Nebraska basketball here because coaches go to the Final Four. People that are looking for jobs are at the Final Four. People chat at the Final Four. The portal picks up at the Final Four, and then for the couple of weeks afterwards, I'm going to throw a couple of names at you, and there'll be a lot of local interest to see local guys that are in the portal that could benefit, either a Nebraska or Creighton. One of them is John Tanji, who I when he was in high school, and you watched a lot of high school basketball. People were overlooking him, and I always thought, man, Omaha was the first to offer him a scholarship. I kept thinking, why aren't more schools offering him? But nobody pulled the trigger. And then Colorado State did a really good job of recruiting him. So he goes there for 4 years, and he really develops his game. I mean, when he walked into the door to when he left, I mean, his game looked completely different. Where do you think? Because I know Nebraska has interest, and maybe even an offer. Where do you think he is on the priority list for Nebraska's pursuit of all these guys that are in the portal that their name comes up with all of them?
I don't know if he's at the top, but he's definitely he's probably near it. I watched a lot of John when he was in high school. He's a fellow Central Eagle. He was a couple years behind me there, and then I've got some connections with the guys out in Fort Collins when they were recruiting him, and I thought it was interesting because the biggest question about John coming out of high school was if he could defend the perimeter, because a lot of the time he was playing an undersized 5 or the 4 at Central. And then I talked with one of the coaches out there, end of his first summer of the fall. I'm like, how's John doing? They're like, well, we think he might be our best perimeter defender. I'm like, that answers that question. There you go. But I've been telling people that John plays like Fred Hoiberg wants C.J. Wilcher to play. We've seen the C.J. Wilcher roller coaster these last couple of years, but John plays like what you'd want to see out of C.J. Wilcher. He's got the perimeter game. He can get to the basket. He's a lot quicker on his feet. I think he's definitely near the top of the list, but I don't think he's at the very top for Nebraska.
Yeah, and when you kind of watch the tournament, and especially in the early rounds, and you look at Nebraska where they sort of ended the season, and I know that probably is a little more challenging because of the injuries, but the overall, the core and kind of the style that Nebraska wants to maybe go forward with, between what you saw and what maybe they need to be, how far away would you say they are? I mean, does it feel like it could be a doable scenario next year for Nebraska to put themselves into that field?
I mean, it's pretty tough to project until we know what
Right.
the roster looks like. I mean, I still think they're not a ways off. They're kind of in a weird, in between. I wouldn't quite call it like basketball purgatory, but it kind of feels like that. Where, obviously they had the team this past year. They've, established a new identity, new style of play, but, was that more because of the personnel they had, or because they knew it's what they needed to do to win? It's a weird, counterbalance. I'm definitely, we'll see what this roster makeup looks like. I don't know when they're gonna, I'll be interested to see if they have any portal guys on visits here soon. I know they've had a couple in-home visits with some portal targets, but I think they're still in a weird spot. They definitely it'll definitely come down to some of the guys they add.
So they have, I think, 4 scholarships available. I want to ask you on another guy, because I know Indiana has increased their interest. Jamison Battle from Minnesota. What do you think Nebraska's chances are?
It appears there's mutual interest on both sides. I think he's definitely open to playing in the Big Ten still. I know that Nebraska they're targeting him. They're also targeting one of his former teammates from GW as well, and Jameer Nelson Jr. They've at least made contact with him. But I think the interest is probably pretty high, and after what he did to Nebraska in the last game of the year, and then earlier in the year as well, that makes him look all the more appealing to go after and recruit. When a guy gets buckets against you, you're like, we might want that guy. So I think the push is probably going to be pretty strong. He definitely checks a lot of boxes of what Nebraska needs on the perimeter and scoring punch wise, and that'd be a big get if they could pull that off. But like you said, Indiana is ramping up their interest as well. So there's plenty of interconference interest in battle.
We talk about Nebraska football and what they try to do from a recruiting standpoint, and with his coaching staff not having even coached a game yet. When you look at Fred and hey, he's established as a college basketball coach. People know him beyond obviously his time in Nebraska, but also with Iowa State. From just a recruiting standpoint, and now with the transfer portal, do you still feel like Fred Hoiberg can show up and still kind of pull that rabbit out of a hat, if you will, when it comes to recruit someone that we're like, wow, did not see that coming, if it comes to especially in the transfer portal too?
I think he could. I've been I've been saying it on this show all year. It feels like questioning what the sales pitch is, what they're selling, but he's got plenty of guys that were on those Iowa State teams that are still playing in the NBA, that are on their second, maybe even third contracts, and they're well established in roles. He can definitely sell the path to the NBA. They've had, despite the record and despite the win-loss, everything at Nebraska so far, they've had two guys that have wound up on NBA rosters and via the draft, like not just as free agents. They've had two guys that they brought in and they got drafted. So combine that with guys he has at Iowa State and the connections that he has in front offices across the league. He can sell that NBA path, and never heard anybody say a bad word about Fred, in recruiting. So he's a likable dude. You get along with him, and he can sell you on the league. He could make some stuff happen recruiting, I think.
How good of a staff is this recruiting? I know Nate is the big in-state guy, but all I hear about is Fred recruiting.
Yeah, that's still kind of an interesting question, because Nate has definitely done a lot. Nate Lenzer has definitely done a lot in state. He's the one building and establishing relationships with some of the younger local guys who may not even be sure things, but if they have a chance, he's got the relationship built in there. I know Coach Howard seems to be the primary out of state guy. From what I've heard, just going back to when he got here, he's made contact with some of the big guy recruits they've gone after. Still haven't quite figured out Coach Ziegler's role. I know he's got some. He was the primary guy on one of the visitors they had toward the end of the year. I think the Sunrise guy they had toward the end of the year. Ziegler was the main lead there. It's kind of an all hands on deck effort, but it's night and day different from one guy being the end all be all recruiting. It seems like it's a team effort from top to bottom.
Also wanted to get your thoughts college basketball wise, and you saw us last night after Texas loses, but it does sound like Rodney Terry will be at Texas. Is that surprising to you? I don't even say are you a fan of it, but is that surprising that maybe Texas would still maybe try to go for the big outside available hire?
It doesn't surprise me because it's Texas. They're always looking to make a splash. They want to be the front page news. They like the attention, but Rodney Terry and what he did this year, really still a really impressive run for him with the interim tag. So I don't know when we'll get the final resolution on that, but all the talk all along of Texas still wanting to go for a big splash, that didn't exactly surprise me.
Well, I think in that case, because of timing is everything, you blow a 13-point lead. There were some adjustments you could have made there in the second half. Timing is, oh my gosh, did you not see him in that one game? I think he was probably locked in sooner than this weekend. That's just my read on the situation. I don't think Chris Del Conte can say publicly, hey, I don't evaluate things until the season is over. But I think for the stability and so that they don't have a hesitation going into the offseason, I think he probably locked him up recently.
Yeah, I mean that would make sense, and that'd be great for Rodney to get a chance. That's a big time job. They're putting a lot into basketball now with the new arena and everything. So, that'd be awesome to see the tag get removed for him, I think.
Mike Rhodes to Penn State, yay or nay?
Yay, but that's going to be. I mean, he's shown, a lot of, it's been up and down at VCU since he took over for Will. But Will Wade, that is. There's my simple impression for the day. Will Wade. But that was, he's had some ups and downs since he's been there, but he's definitely got good recruiting ties in that region. That's close enough from VCU to Penn State that he can probably keep some of those recruiting ties he has. And it's going to be another very physical, hard-nosed playing team in the Big Ten. But that's a pretty good replacement to fill the void for Shrewsbury.
Yeah, he is their number one target. Jacob, I appreciate it. When we talk to you next Monday, who will be playing on Monday night?
I'll take you. I whiffed on my Final Four, so I'm gonna think about. I'll take UConn and Florida Atlantic.
Okay, that's an interesting matchup. I just don't know that FAU shoots well in a stadium environment, but I think defense travels.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. But I think FAU's deep, man. I think they might have the best. Well, no, UConn's got depth too, but they're pretty deep. I think they can figure it out. I'm surprised. I'll be shocked if Dusty May not getting a look at a bigger job after what he's done at FAU. That's probably my biggest surprise to come from this tournament. But yeah, that'll be my pick. I'll talk to you guys next week. Have a good rest of the show. Good week, and enjoy the last week of college basketball.
Well, thank you, Jacob.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
Have you looked at the VCU since 2002? The guys that have coached there,
pretty good.
Jeff Capel.
Yep.
Anthony Grant, Shaka Smart, Will Wade, Mike Rhodes.
Mm-hmm.
Not a bad place if you want to get a bump to a Power 6 job.
Good. Jumpstart you right there.
There's your selling point. We can get you.
Even if you do what Will Wade did, you're going to find yourself hired very quickly.
I still got to LSU.
He did.
Yeah. He was 51-20.
Yeah.
That's not a bad place to go. You're in Richmond.
There's some dudes out there.
A10, have a little success. Boom. Make the jump.
The Rodney Terry news, too. His post game with the players. I think you might be onto something there, Sharpie. I think that was probably already agreed upon, but you could tell, even with the way that game went and how I'm sure a lot of Texas fans could be very frustrated with that. There was that emotional moment afterwards, too, where there's just something I think that people are – we've seen this in football, too. When you're the interim guy and you get them pretty far, fall short, but you kind of show that passion, that emotion, too. It's just – there's always a lot of that appreciation, but I'm always curious with a fan base like Texas, okay, beyond that, how much further does that appreciation go? Are you still dwelling on we blew this huge lead, or gosh dang, our coach is likable and he got him that far and he really seems to care, man? Did you hear him crying after the game? Like, I don't know. I'm really fascinated on a fan base like that, how they ultimately feel about that.
I don't know. They made a mistake. When that score was tied with 4 minutes to go, Texas played like they had a lead.
Yeah.
They had a large lead.
Mm-hmm.
Just kudos to Miami for coming back. and that massive second half comeback. But they let Miami hang around, let them make a game of it,
They had a
and
chance to put 'em away.
never put them out. And then the call of the box out or the undercut.
Yeah.
Which I thought over the back. I mean,
did too.
way over the back.
I did too.
But, one call doesn't decide everything.
Nope.
One play, though, does decide things. So back to the FAU K-State game. And great atmosphere, good basketball. Dusty May and 35-3 is in the tournament. They play to their strengths. They rebound well. They never lose their poise. Guy was a student manager at IU. Former Nebraska assistant Michael Lewis, when he was the captain of IU, that was the student manager. And, wasn't Lawrence Frank, wasn't he a student manager at IU?
Yeah.
And he got all the way to an NBA head coaching job? I mean, video coordinator, and you've got a path. So what FAU did in that game, impressive. What Jerome Tang did after the game, even more impressive.
That's what I thought.
Somebody who is building men that also are basketball players.
Yep.
He is in it for all the right reasons. And I know his point guard, Noel, got all the love. To me, he was more Carson Edwards than Kemba Walker. I didn't like some of his decision-making on Saturday, and he got into the mode of, let's just try and do it all.
Yep.
And he kind of was, and they didn't handle Keontae Johnson's foul trouble really well. God, it's going to be tough not to remember the Marquise Noel stretch here in the tournament without the final play being part of your discussion. I can't believe he gave it up.
That was cringeworthy.
I can't believe that he gave it up. Now, good defense by FAU, because they were like, oh, he gave it up. We're not letting him get it back. But you were shooting and making logo threes.
Right. There was no shot outside your range.
I didn't like him giving it up.
It was surprising. Yeah, but selfishly, just because he was a treat to watch, I wanted to see that shot.
Talk about Creighton and how things lined up for them. I'm not turning it back to them. Just K-State's a team I think about with that same discussion, and that K-State's probably thinking, their fans and whatnot, it was right there. When you look at this bracket in this Final Four, it was right there.
Yeah, but they had no urgency on that final play.
That's what I thought.
They're kind of like just lollygagging up the floor. Like Noel was just like, okay,
Yeah.
Instead of, we got to go here because we're trailing. I'd like to be K-State, though. So they've gotten their two most recent times of the Elite Eight. They essentially have lost to Loyola Chicago twice.
Yeah.
Because FAU and Loyola Chicago, their conference, their facilities, their budget are very similar. Loyola Chicago knocked K-State out in 18, and FAU got them on Saturday night at the Garden.
Even their Butler game in 10. I mean, you weren't going up against the number one seed.
Just let it sink in.
Stings a bit.
Let it sink in that Florida Atlantic is in the Final Four. Florida Atlantic.
And
FAU.
35-3, no fluke.
Just
Good team.
also let it sink in. The college basketball world revolves around South Florida.
That's what I thought.
South Florida. One team's arena seats 2,900. I mean, now what I'm getting to is this is the beauty of this 3-week stretch. One arena seats 2,900. Miami's arena, they average about 8,000. Okay? And it's kind of where it's located on campus. It's a little bit of an afterthought. It's, it's not very far from baseball, but it's just kind of you're wandering past some school buildings and you walk into a parking lot and there's this big arena sitting right there. And it's just, but it's coaching, the right time. And you know what? You play to your strengths. Fear is done. Unless a team is much larger than you, fear in basketball is out the window. And people are going, well, is this because of the portal? And
yeah, I saw that.
Well,
I saw people asking that question.
Princeton didn't have any guys from the portal.
Yeah.
You get hot. You play well. It's the randomness, the razor thin margin of this time of the year.
It's why we love it.
Situation.
It's why we love it. We can gripe about not having higher seeds in the Final Four, and maybe it's
hello LeVar,
or we can just embrace what we're going to see this weekend. But nobody can deny how truly unpredictable this tournament is, and it always delivers.
Weeks ago, there'd be chaos this March. That's what we got.
And also teams nowadays don't consider themselves Cinderella.
Nope.
Like FDU was go, hey, you're Cinderella. You know what? We think we're pretty good.
Yeah.
We have 3 first-time teams in the Final Four. We had a 15 and a 16 win in this tournament. And we had no number 1 seeds playing on Saturday and Sunday. We good with this?
But no damn buzzer beaters. I'm not good with that. I need a buzzer beater.
Are we good? Are we good with the field?
I embrace it.
Like, is it cool to say out loud, hey, man, this is kind of fun?
Yeah.
But then you get
it
to the
should be.
games on Saturday and you're like,
But San Diego State and Florida Atlantic play 46-42.
Okay, well, I can't defend that.
UConn FAU on Monday night. Jim Nance's goodbye.
Yeah.
We good with that?
The Owls soar above Houston. And I'm soaring to Augusta.
UConn FAU. God, for a second, speaking of Augusta, they were running one of the promos during the Creighton game. And we all know what would lie ahead for Creighton if they win that game, that they could have a pretty good shot at playing on Monday. I'm like, could Creighton be playing on Masters Week? Oh, my God. Could Creighton be playing on the start of Masters Week? This is just, that was a lot to comprehend.
All right, just to give you another idea of how wacky this is. This is from John Gassaway. You know the streaks when we're trying to figure out who's going to win the national championship? If you're in the top 12 in week 6 of the AP poll, if you're in the top 6 of Ken Palm on Selection Monday, and there's 355 teams that won't win it because you've won 6 straight, UConn is the only one that's left that fits those.
Put it down.
And they look like the best team going in the tournament. So if you believe that regular season sometimes does show up again in the postseason, UConn kind of has validated that. Outside of the Big East, which Big East best conference. They're 15-0 against non-Big East teams?
And this is like their 11 Final Four also in Houston.
Hey, best thing that happened to the Big East is UConn is back. UConn, St. John's, Georgetown need to be good to get that TV money. And UConn is back. UConn's back,
Rick.
and they're not going anywhere. Absolutely not going anywhere. Now, I'm not saying they're going to, this is the run that, oh my God, this is one of the greatest runs of all time. Yeah, we'll see.
No, just that they're back.
Yeah, they're back. They're back and they're good. And they're like Creighton and other teams that got to the cusp. They're constructed to win in March with everything you need. Even this year in college basketball, where point guard play has been very spotty, they've got the right elements.
Yeah.
But it's yesterday in Louisville, Drake in Miami, being down 8 with 5 minutes to go, a jump ball call that could have gone Memphis way. Hardaway throws the water ball across the arena, and FAU gets the ball and they win the game. That's how wild it is to get. That's when you get on the doorstep like Creighton yesterday. It is so hard to get to the Elite Eight, even harder to get to the Final Four.
Yeah.
And then harder to get to Monday, and then, of course, win the national championship. They don't come around just like that. I mean, ask Kentucky. Ask other teams that are blue bloods that haven't been on the doorstep like this. All right, 9:35. Joel Lorenzi is going to join us, we hope, here in just a bit. Kind of a wrap of yesterday from Kentucky. That's coming up next. Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
Gary Sharp, Nick Handley, and Jimmy Chavez. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Weekdays 6 to 10. On 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com. Mornings on 1620 The Zone is brought to you by MD West One Orthopedics, Neurosurgery, and Spine. Previously on Unsportsmanlike Conduct.
It's gotten to people get really after me on Twitter if they find out that I've had boneless weight.
Wow,
It's become this thing where it's oh, you're going to lose your man card. Oh, that's why. You're the type of person that even says man card that you've already given up hope on me.
That's weird.
Oh, God. You don't spend enough time on Twitter, or you don't have enough crazies that tweet at you.
Unsportsmanlike Conduct with John Bishop and Josh Peterson. Weekdays 2 to 6 on 1620 The Zone. Your Omaha area forecast from the Godfather's Pizza Weather Center and KETV News Watch 7 on 1620 The Zone.
After a cold start this morning, we'll see increasing clouds with chilly temperatures continuing into your afternoon. High today in Omaha near 42 degrees with northerly winds between 5 to 10 miles an hour. Cold again here tonight, staying mostly cloudy with some clearing skies late, low near 25. I'm meteorologist Caitlin Harvey with KETV News Watch 7.
The Blue Jay Zone is brought to you by Barry Law. We're in it to win it. Was this year's Sweet 16 victory closure for 2014? In reality, it's the continuation of this team's story.
That was a very, very special group. Going from the Valley to the Big East and everything that they did and accomplished was really incredible. But what these guys have done is equally incredible, and this is a special group as well. So, Baylor happened to be the next opponent in the road to where we're trying to go, and I was proud of our preparation, and obviously our execution was outstanding as well.
Winning comes without a guarantee. Focus, discipline, and extraordinary effort make winning more likely. Sometimes our greatest wins come from major setbacks. Coming back from a serious injury is a win that requires teamwork. At Barry Law, we're in it to win it.
If you have been seriously injured in an accident, call Barry Law today. 402-999-7777.
Hi, this is Doug Nodgard with Equitable Bank. Great service never goes out of style. When the digital age dawned, many said computers would be able to handle many of the interactions that used to take a person. Boy, were they wrong. How many times have you called your bank and gotten a recording to press 1 or 2? Not at Equitable. Not only does Equitable answer your call in the first ring, it's answered by a human being. That's because Equitable Bank values its customers. Equitable Bank, we take banking personally. Member FDIC.
No matter how dark it gets, there's always a sunrise, a warm bed, a warm meal, and hope. Sienna Francis House serves hope to those experiencing homelessness and addiction. Every day, we provide more than 1,000 meals and serve nearly 500 guests in our emergency shelter, Miracles Recovery Program, and supportive housing apartments, and help our guests navigate a path to permanent housing. Learn more at siennafrancis.org.
Hey, baseball fans, join the Blur Tailgate at Hilton Omaha this June for our 11th annual hospitality event during the College Baseball Championship Series. Book an experience for your clients or employees with an inclusive bar, buffet, TVs, music, and tailgate games. Secure your spot today and let us handle all the details steps away on the south side of Charles Schwab Field. Visit blurevents.com to book your group, buy tickets, or learn about sponsorships. That's blurevents.com, your college baseball and football tailgate destination. Blur Events takes care of all the work so you can enjoy the day.
Ever walk through a door and see all the trucks? Yeah, it's kind of like that at Gretna Auto Outlet. Half-ton trucks, three-quarter-ton trucks, dualies, gas or diesel. Gretna Auto Outlet will be happy to show it to you. They don't call it truck heaven for nothing, you know. Stop in the climate-controlled comfort of the indoor showroom or online with the virtual showroom at GretnaAuto.com. Gretna Auto Outlet, open Sundays too, just north of Nebraska Crossing on Highway 6 in Gretna.
And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
We'll discuss tomorrow. We've run out a little bit of time. Nebraska's Sunday struggles continued yesterday. They did win a series. They lost on Sunday again. Olsen Kaminska, come on down.
Yep.
Better win on Friday and Saturday. Yep. They won a series, though. Mm-hmm. They won a series.
Just slugging it.
Oh, yeah. Corn Crushers were on full display this weekend.
Yeah, they were. Even in an attempt to get back in the game yesterday afternoon, too.
Haven't won a Sunday game since 26th of February?
Yep.
Month?
Yeah, against USA.
So what, 3-6-1 without Olsen and Kaminska starting? Wow.
Hey, Emmett, Jace, no pressure. Emmett was good on Friday.
Could they have Komine come back? He was 20-0 on Friday nights at home in his career at Nebraska. Could he just stop in and pitch on Sundays?
And Jake on Sunday was a rare luxury to have what he could do. And for a guy that, threw probably on his best day, fastball 88 miles an hour, but had a great, reliable changeup. Stud.
I think the next number to be retired at Nebraska, and this might be down the road until he retires at Arkansas, number 2.
Yep.
It's the only sport where you can retire a number of the head coach. Baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2 needs to go up on the outfield fence as well when Dave Van Horn is done at Arkansas. That's who I would do next.
Yep, I totally agree.
I mean, there'll be a lot for job of 44.
Yeah.
But I would go number 2.
I would say that would make the most sense before you get job in the 2005 College World Series, you had Dave to get Nebraska to rework that roster and get that group into the first College World Series. So, yeah, I think that would make more sense.
Do you think Erstad and Gordon could have hit on Friday night and gotten at least one base hit?
On Friday night?
Yep. They're being honored, and they also are being snuck into the lineup.
Maybe.
Yeah, grab a bat.
Komine could have thrown to a batter.
Mm-hmm. By the way, Darren, not that Darren ever looked out of shape, but he's looking good. Gordon, obviously, still too, but yeah,
still crazy. Alex's AG is 39.
Yeah. Beard game was on point too.
Yeah. Those days of playing defensive back for Lincoln Southeast seem like a long time ago.
Speaking of which, his brother was there too.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was, and we talked to Darren on Friday. Yeah, Darren during the season, he was always just a competitor and man, a few words sometimes, just depending on what setting you had him in. You talk about a guy that is just so relaxed and just you can tell he is at peace with where he's at right now, with what he's doing in his kids' lives, and I mean, he was just living it up before the game. It was just great to see. Because, I mean, that's a side of Darren that I know a lot of people didn't always get a chance to see. And some of us that, like you and myself, that maybe had a little more access to the baseball program, we would see that. And, I mean, it was on full display on Friday, man. It was awesome. And all those guys and Shane Kone and his parents there, and they had the lays on all of the guys too. It was just a really cool scene there.
Yep, and I'm glad they won as well.
Yes.
All right, Joel Lorenzi on the morning after the Creighton San Diego State game. He'll join us next on Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone and 1620thezone.com with Gary Sharp and Nick Handley. For the Jays, the Huskers, and even you Jayskers, we are 1620 The Zone.
Ready to revolutionize your home's look? Smash those outdated windows and upgrade with J-Tech Construction, the official exterior and solar experts of the Huskers. For a limited time, qualified buyers enjoy no payments and zero interest for a year. Plus, receive a free triple paint upgrade. Trust the best in the business and see why so many homeowners choose us. Contact us now and take the first step toward a stunning home transformation. The official exterior and solar experts of the Huskers, J-Tech Construction, your exterior experts.
The brand new Dollar General Distribution Center in Blair is now hiring. Starting wage is up to $22 per hour with benefits including medical, dental, vision, 401k, and a $2,000 sign-on bonus. Apply today by texting DG Warehouse to 25000 or online at dollargeneral.com/careers. Again, apply today by texting DG Warehouse to 25000 or online at dollargeneral.com/careers. Dollar General can't wait to have you become a team member at their brand new distribution center.
Hey everyone, Josh Peterson here for my friends at Miracle Hill Golf and Tennis. I have been saying it throughout the last few weeks. They are changing the way that they do golf instruction at Miracle Hill Golf and Tennis. One of the changes, on-course instruction. If you want to find out more information and learn from Mike Faber and Jonathan Melke, find your best golf swing, give them a call today at 402-498-0220. They're located just north of Dodge on 120th Street, Miracle Hill Golf and Tennis.
Ladies and gentlemen, it has come to the attention of the Nebraska Lottery that when people hear a radio commercial in their car for one of our lotto games, Powerball, Mega Millions, or Lucky for Life, they tend to begin daydreaming about how they'll spend the prize money if they win, instead of paying attention to the road. So please, when I tell you that Nebraska Lottery Lotto games offer big money and big fun, keep your mind on driving. Do not start thinking about all the things you could buy if you win. Things like bright red sports cars, tropical vacations, 100-inch TVs, hot tubs, SUVs, a new computer, motorboats.
Bob, snap out of it.
Oh, good heavens. Ladies and gentlemen, my apologies. Perhaps I should go home now.
You better let me drive.
Lotto games from the Nebraska Lottery. Top prize odds vary by game.
Today on Hey Culligan, how smart is your water? Here's Tracy.
Hey, Culligan. I think my water might be dumb. Good news, Tracy. Your water's not dumb. It's just not talking to you.
You can make my water talk.
No, but the new Culligan Smart Drinking Water System can talk to your phone to tell you when your water filters need changing and help you meet drinking water goals.
Now that's some brilliant H2O.
You said it, Tracy, and we're already on the way. Let us help you out with a free in-home water test with the local Culligan water expert at Culligan.com.
Cards issued by Celtic Bank, member FDIC. Are you the decision maker in your company? Consider this. For the first time in decades, there's a better option for a corporate card and spend management platform. Meet Ramp, the only corporate card and spend management system designed to help you spend less money so you can make more. Most corporate credit cards offer points as incentives, but those points amount to less than their worth in real cash value. Ramp's business cards offer you cash back, real money in your pocket. Plus, you control who spends what with each vendor. And Ramp software collects and verifies receipts automatically, which means you'll stop wasteful spending and close your books in hours instead of days. Businesses that use Ramp add up to 3.5% to their bottom line the first year. If you're a decision maker, adding Ramp could be one of the best decisions you've ever made. And now get $250 when you join Ramp for free. Just go to ramp.com/sports. Ramp.com/sports. ramp.com/sports.
And we're back. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
All right, so we will.
He just texted me.
And?
Well, he said he's in the process of checking out of the hotel, and then he just asked if we could call after 10. I'll have to explain to him, well, that we can call you, but we won't get to play radio if we do.
We'll
But
just
we can call
hey,
you.
Just
and
call him and
holla.
start talking to him. So we'll reschedule
Yeah.
Joel for
let
later
him
this
let him
week.
get home.
Settle back in.
The Lego Maniac writes into the Equitable Bank inbox, Cinderella versus Blue Bloods. Ooh, that'll be a fun discussion this week. Is Connecticut a blue blood? People are obsessed with blue bloods. If you are and aren't, like, can you fall in and out of being a blue blood? But he says, I'm not a fan of this Final Four. I like upsets in the first weekend, but I prefer blue bloods in the Final Four. And I think most people are the same. And I think TV ratings will reflect that.
I would agree with that last
Didn't we
part.
kind of say that after the first weekend? Yeah. All right, that was fun. Now let's get to business.
If you ask me what I prefer, I'm like Zach. I always will be. I'm not going to apologize about it. But am I someone that is not going to embrace this every now and then? No, I think it's just fine. And I think it's always a constant reminder of, as we've been talking about for almost 4 hours today, the randomness of this tournament, the razor's edge, especially when you get into that second weekend of how a game can turn. So I think you get reminders of that. And I thought it was an interesting question, and probably a popular question that people are asking of, is this a product of the transfer portal? It's still, I can't completely buy into that either. I just think that this is what we get from time to time. Yeah. And I understand the question because it's something new. And we like to think that it maybe provides a little bit more parity. But until I see more of this, I can't go there yet.
We won't have a lot of San Diego State type teams at the average age is 30. What are they, 33? I think.
Like a Gweck, is it what? He's like 37.
So
the Chargers were still in San Diego when he started.
So a rope, I think, is 25.
Yeah, should be.
And good for a Gweck because he's had quite the basketball journey. He was the 16 player of the year in the state of Nebraska for Omaha South.
I got married that year.
When senior and junior were coaching over at South.
Yep.
Then he goes to a prep school. Now here's credit to a Gweck. And he was going to be the guy that was going to change Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
Nebraska had offered him a scholarship. Jim Molinari shows up. They watch tape. And Miles is told, who's that guy going to guard in the Big Ten? He can't play in the Big Ten. And then they just completely boggle the discussion between Arope, the Chubbicks, the whole family about the scholarship. And you know what that did to Tim Miles' reputation in this town. That's why, Michael Lewis almost basically bailed out Nebraska basketball in the city of Omaha after dropping the ball with Arope. Because it was those shows were contentious.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people were angry. They were done with Nebraska basketball. So Arope overcomes that, because then he became the guy that, oh, okay, now, you better be the greatest player. Oh, Nebraska didn't want you? So he had to deal with all of that. Good on him. Do you know that he's played for one college in his entire career? His first year at San Diego State was 18-19. He's been there the entire time. He's used all of his eligibility, got the extra COVID year, did not transfer anywhere else. He stayed, and I would too if you were waking up every day in San Diego.
Nice.
Yeah.
I mean, the campus is okay. It's up on the hill.
Having
It's,
a little bit of that tuition paid for and whatnot. Heck yeah.
He stayed at San Diego State his entire career. I think that's pretty important. But he was the player of the year of the state in 16. I mean, we need Ed Chang and Agweka Rope to be on the same roster. Because Ed Chang was the next year.
Yeah. Now, Ed moved around a little bit, right?
Yeah. He moved around before he ever got into college.
Right. I heard Agweka Rope talking after the game, and he was mentioning where he grew up, but he was also very honest, saying he does not feel sorry for the city of Omaha right now with what they were able to accomplish. And I think that it is going to a lot of that attention on this Creighton team, where there are a lot of resources, hoping that there'll be even more stories about this group going to the Final Four. I think you're going to see a lot of attention on Agweka Rope and kind of what you just sort of laid out right there too. And just the fact that there is a young man from South Omaha that is going to be in the Final Four.
He gave them some quality minutes yesterday. He comes off the bench, and when they needed him to come in and guard Kalkbrenner, or even hit a couple of shots, I mean, Kaluma didn't defend him really well, and a Rope hit some key buckets for them. Their offense.
3 yards in a cloud of dust, maybe 2 yards.
They had stretches yesterday where they weren't even close. See, where that game changed was not San Diego State making like all of a sudden threes and making a run. The first 5 minutes of the second half, actually, I know the first 4 minutes, because that was, everybody was aware you got a chance here, because the last 4 minutes of the first half weren't so good. First 4 minutes of the second half, here's a chance to keep San Diego State at bay, and San Diego State came out intense, and Creighton never matched that intensity, and I don't know that they ever matched that intensity the rest of the second half. But that first 4 minutes, San Diego State got back into the game, and it gave them a whole world of confidence. Instead of taking the lead at halftime, going 4-8 to 11, and then you're like, all right, we got some room here, because San Diego State not built to come back via scoring. They're just going to get stops, and then they're going to ugly it up and hope we get 2 here, we get 2 stops, we get 1 here, we get a 3 maybe. Just weren't able to do that. The first 4 minutes were vitally important to begin the second half, and I thought that's where the game changed and gave San Diego State life. And you saw it never. Creighton was never able to pull away, even though they would get the lead periodically from then. And San Diego State hit shots that they were nothing special. I mean, just turnaround shots in front of the bucket, or elbow jump shots.
Or a offensive rebound that led to another brick, but got another offensive rebound that finally led to a 3. And
Creighton looked uncomfortable.
Yeah. Well, and in Elite 8 games, most teams would probably be pretty happy that they're up at the break by 5. The way this game was going, and then the last few minutes of that first half, that felt like a major win for San Diego State.
High Point officially announced Alan Huss as their head coach. They'll announce it officially later today. There's an opening, a big opening on the Creighton staff. Either a promotion of somebody already on the staff, or if I was looking to become a head coach, I'd be contacting Mac at the Final Four to say, hey, I'd love to be on your bench, because Lutz, Huss, DeVries, we're starting to get a track record of guys that have worked for Mac that go and get their job elsewhere
and have success.
And then they're wondering, hey, Mac, when are you going to leave? Because I'd really like to come back and be the head coach of Creighton.
I love that idea, though, of guys just running up to Mac and, hey, here's my resume. If you get a minute, if you get a minute.
I know you're busy. Sorry about the loss.
The overzealous one, like the go-getter, the young one, the young hungry one.
That's what the Final Four is, man. It's like a coaching convention. Everybody's looking for a job. There's no major head coaching jobs open except for Penn State, and Cal's going to be full with Mark Madsen's going to go from Utah Valley to Cal, but the assistant coaches will be the big one.
I had a friend run into Jim Boeheim at the 06 Final Four and something like that. Not going to surprise you, but he was a peach.
I can only imagine. God bless Mac for just being a good guy. But like Jim Boeheim in that situation, if you went up and tried to, hey, I'd like to be on your bench, what might come out of Boeheim's mouth? Probably actually nothing. He probably wouldn't even acknowledge you, is what I'm thinking.
Somehow my friend got a pick with him. Like I said, he was a peach.
No job but a pick?
Yeah.
That's kind of how it happens. Yeah.
He was less than thrilled, but
He got
somehow he got the picture.
He got a selfie over his salary.
Yeah.
Oh, that happens.
You'll have that forever, though.
All right. Big thanks to Brian Munson, also Jacob Bigelow. Big thanks to all of you. I know, I think morning after people are starting to digest the game yesterday in some ways differently. So hopefully we've helped you. I'm sure Connor and then, of course, John and Josh coming up in the afternoon. A good Monday of shows right here on 1620 The Zone. We're back tomorrow at 6, opening day, Major League Baseball coming up on Thursday. Dave Raymond, very familiar voice, will join us tomorrow with his thoughts as the season begins this week. For Jimmy, for Nick, I'm Gary. Crossover is next on 1620 The Zone.
Live from the Host Coffee Studio.